Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Cave Network podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about issues pertaining to high net worth and ultra high net worth Muslims. Today's discussion, inshallah ta'ala, is going to be very, very, very important because we're going to talk about the halal and the haram with regards to investments, transactions, and also how one can pay zakat on the assets that he actually has. Now, I have a very, very esteemed panel here. To my right, of course, we've got the Mughal of real estate. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. How you doing?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
There's a new big deal on the horizon.
Inshallah.
We're letting people know about it soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
He's always acting humble, but... And then to my left, as you guys know and you've seen him many times, Sheikh Muawiyyah Tucker, graduate from the Islamic University of Al-Medina, expert in Islamic finance and Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
How you doing, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, khair. Thanks for having me.
And then we have Sheikh AbdulWahid Stephenson, the Dean of Medina College in South London in the UK, and also, mashallah, tabarakallah, an expert in Islamic finance, graduate from the Islamic University of Medina. Barakallah feekum. Thank you for joining us today.
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah feek. So guys, the way that the conversation is going to go today is we're going to talk about Islamic financing, right? Which is like how to actually raise capital funds, the do's, the don'ts. Is it permissible? Is there a such thing as Islamic financing? We're going to talk about various different asset classes. We're going to go through as many as we possibly can and talk about the Sharia compliant issues around these. We're going to talk about Islamic banking. What is it? We're going to talk about zakat on different asset classes, and then Sam has some very specific questions that I think those that have a background in the kind of things that he's involved in will find those questions very pertinent as well, inshallah ta'ala. But before we begin, I do want to start off by sharing a reminder with you guys on a tradition that we've developed on this podcast, which is to begin by having something spiritual, something that connects us, our wealth, our work in our business, our entrepreneurship, our investment activity to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. So guys, there is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm going to narrate the hadith too, and then on the back of that I'm going to explain to you the point that I want to get across, and it is actually the underlying theme of the entire discussion today. So in the hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Inna Allah tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyiba." Allah Azza wa Jal is pure, and Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't accept things that are not pure. So Allah is pure. Allah Azza wa Jal will not accept your actions, your good deeds, your salat, your zakat, your fasting, your dua, the dua that you make, unless it's coming from pure. Now, in the same hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he then goes on to mention two ayat in the Quran. Allah says, "Ya ayyuhar rusul, kulu min at-tayyibati wa'malu salihan." Allah speaking to the messengers. O messengers, kulu min at-tayyibat, eat from things that are pure. I don't eat haram. Eat from things that are halal. Wa'malu salih, and then do good deeds. And do good deeds. So Imam Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah, has got a very big book where he talks about, a selection of hadith that are very important, foundational deen. He actually gives a beautiful explanation to this. He said, وَالْمُرَادُ بِهَذَا. He said, the intent behind this connection between this ayah and what was mentioned before, is أن الرسل وأممهم مأمورون بالأكل من الطيبات. The intent here is that the messengers and their nations were commanded to eat halal, to eat pure. التي هي الحلال وبالعمل الصالح, and to do good deeds. فما دام الأكل حلالا, so what's the connection? As long as the thing that you eat is halal, the money that you earn is halal, and through it you buy halal food and you live in a halal house and all those things, your provisions halal, فالعمل الصالح مقبول, your good deeds will be accepted. I.e., he said, فإذا كان الأكل غير حلال, and if you're earning your food that you eat is not halal, فكيف يكون العمل مقبولا? How on earth are your actions going to be accepted? In other words, brothers, a person who earns wealth in a way that's haram, his good deeds are not accepted. Period. Now, I actually want to go a bit deeper into something this hadith is indicating that many of us are not necessarily aware about. So look, when it comes to food, when it comes to provisions that you need to work for, right? You need to earn money to get food, to get a house, to get drink, to get shelter, to get all of these things. Why on earth do we eat? Do we drink? It's energy, so we can do things. And the primary thing that we have to do is worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you cannot worship Allah Azza wa Jal properly without having the ability to do so. The money that you earn gives you the ability to do so. So the first and foundational and fundamental reason why we earn money is so that we can give ourselves the provision and the ability to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. And I need you to start having this correlation in your mind, this connection between money, between provision, between kasb, between what you earn and Allah's obedience. The first type of obedience that you do is obedience that is specific to you. As-salah, as-zakat, fasting, hajj, umrah, so on and so forth. These things require money. Even your salah requires money. How does it require money? Because you're going to get food that you're going to eat. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala one time was leading salah and he didn't do takbir. He did takbir, he didn't do raf' al-yadayn, he didn't lift his hands up. Now, why didn't he lift his hands up? The people thought Imam Ahmad's Imam of the sunnah. So maybe there's a sunnah, we don't lift our hands up anymore when we do the takbir. And then after the salah, he said, I didn't lift up my hands because I didn't have enough energy in me because I'm starved. I'm going through hunger. I didn't have the energy to lift my hands up. So what you earn gives you energy, gives you ability, gives you tawfiq from Allah Azza wa Jal to worship Allah. Now, high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals, guys who watch this podcast, those are members of our network, The Cave. These guys, you've got enough money to eat for a lifetime. But then you don't lose that connection between how do I worship Allah and obey Allah with this money. Because now it extends sadaqah, charity, setting up a waqf, using your wealth, your power and influence to do all sorts of other good deeds. So this is the first point that I want to communicate to you, inshallah ta'ala, which is that I need you to start understanding that earning from the beginning, from first principles, from the very essence, from the foundation, is directly connected to facilitating ibadah. So have that connection in your mind. I earn wealth so I can obey Allah. I earn more wealth, then that allows me to enter new levels and opportunities to obey Allah Azza wa Jal. The second thing that the hadith, and this is one we're going to spend a bit of time on, it indicates is the importance of staying away from haram wealth, from haram earning, because it will affect your good deeds from being accepted in the first place. People tell you, listen, don't do riba because it's haram, you're going to get punished. Okay, that's one element. But it's not just you're going to get punished for the haram, bro. It's your good deeds that you do are not going to be accepted in the first place. Now, this requires an act of worship, which is from the actions of the heart, which is called al-wara'. Al-wara', one of the best ways to explain it, and scholars explain it in different ways, is that it is not just staying away from haram, but it's staying away from anything that could even lead to haram. It's not just staying away from the haram itself, but before I even get to the haram, I'm going to stay away from the thing that could pull me and that could lead me and that could cause me to slip up in the first place. I just want to share with you some statements from Salaf, some of the Salaf of this ummah, to show you how they saw this. In fact, just to back up the previous point that I made before we go into this, to back up the previous point, Shu'ayb ibn Harb, he said the previous point about the connection between obedience and wealth. He said, وَلَا تَحْقِرَنَّ فَلْسًا تُطِيعُ اللَّهَ فِي كَسْبِهِ. Don't belittle even a penny that you earn whilst obeying Allah Azza wa Jal. لَيْسَ الْفَلْسُ يُرَادْ. The penny is not the thing that's intended here. إِنَّمَا الطَّاعَةُ تُرَادْ. It's the fact that you obeyed Allah. عَسَى أَن تَشْتَرِيَ بِهِ بَقْلًا. Perhaps you buy a vegetable, right? Perhaps you buy a small little vegetable with this one penny that you earned through halal. فَلَا يَسْتَقِرْ فِي جَوْفِكَ حَتَّى يُغْفَرْ لَكَ. And because it stays in your stomach, Allah forgives your sins. I.e., the Salaf understood what I'm bringing you is not something new. If I put halal food in my mouth that I earned from halal, even if it was small, what you belittle, but it was halal, the fact that it goes in my stomach could be a reason why Allah forgives me for my sins. If you're thinking of investing in real estate right now, it's risky because of all the issues that are going on in the world. The real estate market is volatile and at risk. Unless you're thinking of investing in Dubai. Whatever happens around the world, with Allah's permission, His fadl, alhamdulillah, Dubai real estate market keeps on thriving. Brother Sam Amin, one of the members of this panel, you guys have seen him before, Sakina Developments, $150 million in assets under management, is doing his second development project here in Majan. Now, here's the really cool thing. From an allocation perspective, from a fundraising perspective, this project is almost at the finish line. There is only 3 million dirham left to raise. Now, here's why you should get in now, in my humble opinion, before this window closes. 2 reasons. Number one, the second project that's ready is not going to give you 50% returns, inshallah ta'ala. The returns are going to be good, they're going to be healthy, it's going to be safe, it's going to be secure, inshallah ta'ala, but it won't be as good as this one right here. The second thing is that future investment opportunities are going to be prioritized for guys that are already invested in this particular project. They're going to get the first option to be able to invest. And when they see those gains coming back, inshallah ta'ala, they're going to be very motivated to deploy their capital again, as has happened for Sam historically in the US, alhamdulillah. His investors have become millionaires. Some of them were just middle-class folks that have now become extremely wealthy, Allah barik, on the back of investing, and there's no riba involved. So right now, if you are considering investing in real estate and you don't want to deal with the risks and the stress of the real estate market around the world due to all of this, the terrible things that are taking place, Dubai is thriving. And Sam is providing you a riba-free opportunity, alhamdulillah, with 50% returns. There's only 3 million dirham left. Only 3 million dirham left. They've already raised the overwhelming majority. So you can get involved now. At the link below, apply to speak with one of his team members, inshallah. And hopefully Allah puts barakah in this for you and, it's successful. With that said, may Allah bless you. Let's get back to the podcast. طيب, so let's move on to the second point, inshallah ta'ala, which is the importance of staying away from something doubtful that it could be haram. AbdulWahid Mubarak, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was one of the richest and wealthiest imams of the Salaf. He used to take his whole village to Hajj. Every single year, he used to take groups of people to Hajj, right? And he was the one who said, لَوْلَا فُلَانٌ وَفُلَانٌ مَتَّجَرْتُ. If it wasn't for so-and-so scholar that I provide for, that I fund, I would have never even done business. What's the secret behind his wealth? Perhaps it's this. He said, لأن أرد درهما من شبهة أحب إلي من أن أتصدق ب100,000 حتى بلغ 600,000. He said, for me to return a silver coin, a penny, a dirham, that is doubtful, is better for me to return. He's saying, what's a better deed? What's a better deed? Right? For me to return a penny, a silver coin that's doubtful, is more beloved to me than for me to give charity 6,000 silver coins. 100,000 silver coins that would then grow and multiply into 600,000 silver coins. So for me to give 100,000 silver coins is less for me than to just return 1 penny that is doubtful. That's better for me to stay away from the haram. Another example we'll give here, Damra ibn Habib. He said, لا يعجبكم كثرة صلاة امرئ ولا صيامي. Don't let it amaze you the amount of salah that a man prays and the fasting that he does. ولكن انظروا إلى ورعه. But rather look at his wara'. Look at how he stays away from haram. Look at, it's not just haram, but the thing that could even lead to haram. Staying away from that. فإن كان ورعا مع ما رزقه الله من العبادة فهو عبد الله حقا. If he's a person who has that characteristic of wara', let me stay away from haram. I don't even want to get close to it. The fact that he has that characteristic in the things that Allah provides him, then that is a person who's a true slave of Allah Azza wa Jal. Brothers, a point that I want to mention here. This is an act of worship that really entrepreneurs and investors can thrive in. The Imam is saying, don't be amazed by a man's multiple salawat. Of course, the 5 daily prayers is standard, man, the Sunnah al-Rawatib. But, this guy's praying Qiyamul Layl, he's praying all these salawat, he's fasting. Okay, that's great. Put some money in his hand and see where he places it. A man might not have that level of salah and tahajjud, and might not have that level of what? Fasting and Quran. But he fears Allah where he places his money. He could be better. He could be a better slave. He could be more righteous and closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. We'll mention another example. Yunus ibn Ubayd. He said, إِنَّكَ لَتَعْرِفُ وَرَعَ الرَّجُلِ فِي كَلَامِهِ إِذَا تَكَلَّمْ. You will know the wara', how much a person stays away from haram, from his speech when he speaks. And also, مَا أَهَمْ رَجُلًا كَسْبُهُ. The importance he gives to where he earns from, right? To the point where you look at where he places his pennies, you look at where he places his pounds, and then and I got this from a book called A'mal Qulub. Sheikh Khalid Sabt, he gives a little explanation on this. He said, فَالرَّجُلْ الَّذِي يَتَوَرَّعْ, the man who has this concept of staying away from haram, right, and being cautious of doubtful matters, فِي الْمَكَاسِبِ, in earning, investments and business, يتجنب من المساهمة الفلانية, he stays away from this investment opportunity and putting a share inside this project, لأن فيها شبهة, because there's a doubt. والمشروع الفلاني, this business, this project, he's just staying away from these because it's doubtful. It's doubtful. This person right here is a person who he fears Allah Azza wa Jal. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, again, the same man I told you about, who was that wealthy man who only earned money so he can take care of scholars and mashayikh, right? This is a powerful story. Look at this. He said, I borrowed a pen min ardi Sham, when I was in Sham. I borrowed a pen when I was in Sham. فَذَهَبَ عَلَيَّ أَنْ أَرُدَّهُ إِلَى صَاحِبِهِ. I forgot to return it back to the man I borrowed it from. فَلَمَّا قَدِمْتُ مَرْوًا. And then eventually I traveled and I reached Marw, which is Khorasan, right? It's like near Afghanistan, that type of region, just before Afghanistan. So from Sham, Syria type region to Afghanistan type of region. He said, when I reached there, نظرت فإذا هي معي فإذا هو معي. I realized the pen's with me. What did he do? فرجعت إلى الشام. He said, I went all the way back to Sham. Why? حتى رددته على صاحبي, until I gave him his pen back. Guys, wallahi, what would go through your mind? Is he even going to care about the pen? Is the pen worth the journey back? All of these things start coming to your mind. No, he didn't do that. He wanted to stay away from haram. He wanted to stay away from anything doubtful. He's like, this pen I have is not my haqq, it's not my right. So he went all the way back and he gave it back. There's many narrations to go through, but inshallah ta'ala, I won't extend it and make it longer than it needs to be. But I will mention one thing, right? I said I got these things from A'mal Qulub, Sheikh Khalid Sabt's book, and some other places as well. One of the things that Sheikh Khalid Sabt, he said, and I really just want to share it with you. He said, وَالْمَقْصُودْ مِنْ إِرَادِ ذَلِكَ كُلِّ. All of these narrations, some of them sound tough. In fact, some of the tougher ones I didn't actually mention. Like, for example, Ibn Sirin rahimahullah left off 4,000 gold coins. Sorry, no. 40,000 gold coins in profit because of a transaction that he feared was doubtful. And it's mentioned that the scholars never even differed on whether it was haram. As in, sorry, it never differed on whether it was permissible. As in, all of them swore it to be permissible. All of them swore it to be permissible. But something in him was like, nah, this is not right. So 40,000 gold coins of profit, he rejected it. Now, someone might say this is a bit extreme. Like, scholars are saying it's not haram at all. And he knew that. He was a scholar himself. But he still left it. So, point being is that someone might say, that stuff's a bit tough. You know, I'm not really on that level. Scholars are saying it's not haram. Aslan, there's some stuff with a difference of opinion, right? So I'm going to stay away from it because some scholars say that's haram. This issue, there was no difference of opinion. It's halal. Yeah, he rejected it. So the Shaykh says, وَالْمَقْصُودُ مِنْ إِرَادِ ذَلِكَ كُلِّ. The objective behind narration, bringing all these narrations, is al-i'tibar, wal-i'ti'adh, is to give a reminder and to make you understand وَتَحْرِيكُ دَوَاءِ الْوَرَعِ فِي النُّفُوسِ, and so that you can activate this act of al-wara inside of yourself, inside of your nafs, مع مراعاة مراتب الناس في ذلك كله. But at the same time knowing that people are at different levels. Not everyone is going to be able to reject profit that everyone is saying is halal because he feels that there could be something. Not everyone's going to be at that level, right? To be at that level. He said, وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ يعني محاكاة ما سبق لكل أحد. Not everyone's going to be able to reach that level. But rather the reason I'm sharing this with you. And he goes, by the way, that some level of wara that some of the Salaf did might even not be in line with the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because the humans at the end of the day, they can make mistakes, right? He said, but why am I telling you all this? فيكون ذلك باعثا له على محاسبة النفس في هذا الباب, so that you can use these reminders and take the general meaning from this, which is you hold yourself to accountable before Allah Azza wa Jal inside of yourself. Do you have this act of wara? Are you concerned? Are you a person who cares where he puts his money? Right? Do you have some level of concern to stay away from haram? And it's with that I'd like now to I would now like to take the conversation to our esteemed guests, Barakallahu Fihima wa Jazahumullahu Khaira, who are going to help us unearth and unpackage some of the rulings, some of the underlying Shar'i matters and fiqh with regards to various different topics. We're going to begin with investments and different asset classes. Which one do you guys want to start with?
Bitcoin.
We will not start with Bitcoin today, inshallah.
No,
sound money.
Let's talk about, no, we will discuss Bitcoin, inshallah, but let's start with stocks.
Stocks.
Right? So firstly, Sam, you break it down to us, right? Just so we can have the soul masala. When it comes to various different asset classes, what are the different asset classes, and why have we chosen specifically the ones that we're going to discuss today? There's like a trend and standard like protocol practice.
Right. So when you go to any typical wealth manager,
Yeah.
they'll ask you, what are your goals, right? How aggressive you want to be, how much are you going to contribute, how much money you're going to add, how old are you, when do you plan to retire by? Based on all those factors, they'll offer an allocation, right? And majority of that allocation will be in equities, which is stocks in the market, right? Yeah. And then, bonds, we're going to get to bonds, Sukooq, and real estate and so forth and so on. But majority goes to the market, to the equity. And usually they'll tell you if it's, of course, non-Sharia compliant, it's S&P 500 and other indexes. Over the last 25 years, this has been the return. This is what happens. So they'll show you all this chart. But typically, majority allocation goes onto these indexes, i.e. stocks. So I think it's very important for us to know where do we stand with stocks from an Islamic paradigm.
Beautiful. So we'll touch on some other asset classes as well. Alternative investments, right? It's cool. But let's start with stocks, Sheikh. So in the stock market, we have these different Sharia compliance standards, right, that some institutions follow. They allow up to 30% riba in the company that you're investing in, up to 5% haram activity, as long as the main trading, the main nashat of the business is not haram. Are these permissible to invest in?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakallah for inviting me on the podcast and meeting the brother Sami for the first time. I just want to preface the discussion with something that I think everyone can benefit from,
please,
which is across all types of investments, across all types of spending and earning money, basically, which is that there are 5 principles that need to be considered when we're looking at Sharia compliance.
Okay.
Most of them are known. Riba is the first one, obviously. Everyone understands what riba is. Every Muslim knows what riba is. Second one is something called darar, which is fahish, so it's excessive uncertainty, where there's unknown outcomes. The third one is maisir, which is speculation or gambling, and speculation falls under that. The fourth one is something which is more common in investments, but not really taken as seriously, which is risk and profit. There's a principle that's used, which is al-ghunum bil-ghurm. Profit comes with risk, basically, right? So that's also the fourth one. The fifth one is just in my mind. Let me just get it up. The fifth one is hila. So these last two, I think, are really important, because when we look at finance and the system that we live in, the financial system, the conventional finance, hila is basically looking at form over actually substance, right? So hila is it's called, what is it? It's like a legal trick, basically. So you're looking at not the reality, but you're the form as opposed to the actual reality of what's happening. So, for example, the obvious one is, don't fish on Saturday. Sabbath. So instead put the net out the night before. So you're still catching fish on the day, right? So it's a hila. So you haven't gone against the Sharia, but in reality you have a Sukooq is one of an examples that comes up on that point.
Like, as in they've gone against the intended meaning.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
But okay.
So there's lots of examples. They're trying to trick Allah Azza wa Jal. I wouldn't say that's like more intention, but we're just talking about the substance of it is still impermissible, even though the form isn't, basically. These 5, I think, are key to always bear in mind. Any entrepreneur, any investor, even as individuals, how we earn our money, how we spend our money. Riba, gharar, fahish. Then we have maysir,
Yep.
hila, and al-ghunam bil-ghunam, basically. Risk, profit comes with risk, right? So you can apply these 5 across everything that we're going to discuss, every question you can come up with, basically.
Very nice.
These are the 5 big ones.
I think if we could just dive into these, just because this is so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain why?
Yeah.
Why
each one
of
has
these?
evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah, but taking it back to the question, so we kind of, because there's a lot of questions, right? There's 2 things as it pertains to investing in stocks. The first one is the actual, what the company sells and does. You've mentioned that. The second one is basically how much debt they have. Right. So the first one is obvious. So obviously, if it comes down to banking, that's a riba, so you can't invest in it. It comes down to insurance companies, that's gharar, you can't invest in it. So we can take it back to the principles, right? If it comes down to anything to do with casinos or
adult entertainment,
you can't invest in it, right? So what they actually service they provide. The actual thing that the company. The second thing is what you spoke about, which is the actual looking at how they provide it. So the thing, and then how they do it. So then you're looking at their debt ratio, and you're looking at, for example, if they make interest or not, how much percentage. On that point, you have difference of opinion amongst the scholars. The majority of Islamic finance scholars, they allow for 30% in terms of debt on their books. And 5%, as you mentioned, that's a common view, and that's the AOFI standards, basically. The AOFI standards dictates Islamic finance standards, right? So that's generally that. There's a view that no, not even that's too much. That's not permissible, right? It's a strong view, but it's not. It doesn't fit, and it doesn't work very well if you're talking about stocks and shares, because most companies have, unless you invest in that directly in a company. So that's generally the principles as it pertains to stocks and shares. So that's why, it so happens that a lot of the high-performing stocks are tech companies, right? Google and
Apple,
Tesla,
Amazon,
and Nvidia and stuff like that. Anyway, so but I'm not. But the point is that just because they're tech doesn't mean okay, it's tech. I'll just buy those stocks, right? There's other considerations that really have to be taken into play, and some people just think, okay, well, it's tech, so it has to be permissible. But like you mentioned, there's other factors as well. So that's generally
like the riba.
The riba, basically, right?
So which view are you more in line with, Sheikh? The view of those that allow for up to the 30% or not?
Bitcoin investment. Now, to be honest with you, it's not. I don't personally invest in stocks and shares personally. There's nothing. You opened up with a very powerful kind of reminder, talking about wara, right? And that's obviously staying away from something which is doubtful, so that you don't fall into something which is haram, basically. It's not to say someone that does invest in there and does that, I'll say you don't have any wara specifically, but you kind of want to avoid things. I mean, for us, I think that the challenge isn't even that level. The challenge is staying away from riba in your transactions, or staying away from things which are clearly impermissible, but they're so prevalent that it becomes expensive to avoid and also a challenge to avoid, right? In the current, financial system that we've inherited, basically, right? Because Islamic finance is just bolted onto conventional finance, and to allow for Muslims that have like your wara to sidestep a system which is inherently impermissible. Do you get what I mean? So the level that you're speaking about is that guy is like, he would not be buying stocks and shares, basically, right? Because of the fact that it's clearly there's a purification element of it, right? And I think that's not expected in our time and age from most entrepreneurs or business people. That level, I think the least is to have concern and to really make sure if you're speaking about large sums of money, that you're actually doing due diligence in the first place, and not kind of passing it on to somebody else, because it's your money, you're eating from it. It's easy to say, okay, well, that person said it's okay, let me just do it.
Look, I know you thought it was a scam, or maybe you thought it was too good to be true. But on this podcast, I've been telling you about an opportunity that you can use to learn to make money. There are people that are making 10K a month Allahumma barik, within 90 days, they're making their first dollar online and they're becoming financially independent. Allahumma barik. This is brother Abu Lahya's IMA, Influencer Marketing Accelerator. It shows you how to make money online, halal, through influencer marketing deals. I got off the phone to him and he's just told me that one of the guys from this channel is about to become their first millionaire, million dollars cash. He's just passed the $800,000 mark and he came in the summertime. I just done a live the other day with his inner circle members. These are guys that are on the IMA program that have done their 10K a month. Allahumma barik. They are annually making 10K. Some of them, the next goal is 50K a month. Some of them is more. Some of them is a bit less. And I'm like, this is the real deal. Brothers, I've got so much to lose, like to gas you for no reason. The reason I share this with you is because I don't have anything to offer those that want to learn how to make money online. I genuinely don't. I have a network of high net worth and ultra high net worth Muslims. But people are always asking me. And the only place that I just really trust that I can say to you, go here and hopefully you can learn how to make some money online, inshallah ta'ala, is Abu Lahya's IMA Accelerator. So just so you know, it requires hard work, 4 hours of work every single day, 90 days. It's not cheap. It is expensive. And they reject most applications. But if you get there, inshallah ta'ala, you can get that financial independence, do your hijrah. You don't have to work. Bob's looking over you because you're taking a bit longer than you should have taken on your salah break. Come on, like that's not really the kind of situation you want to be in. So apply at the link below and don't let another year pass. And now you're hearing about their 4th millionaire, 5th millionaire, or, so on and so forth. Apply at the link below. This thing, Sheikh, and it could be down to my ignorance. I've recently seen the importance of me also just kind of really trying to dive in a bit deeper and understand contemporary Islamic finance and transactions at a bit more of a deeper level because of just the nature of the world that we're in right now and the people that we're around. But there's one thing I don't get, and I'd love if the two of you could explain it to me. I hear this a lot, right? Which is that this is not the halal solution, but it's the closest to halal. This is like borderline halal. Like it's not halal. Like, for example, you mentioned most people are not expected to be, we're talking about potentially taking up to 30%. Invest in a stock that has up to 30% riba, which we know is from the 7 major deadly sins, right? From the al-mubiqat, the things that dip you inside the hellfire. But then how do we now reconcile that with, but then you know what, this is the most halal option that we have? Because what I've always grown up understanding is that riba is riba. I'm just going to stay away from it. Like, for example, Sam, he has built and is building a real estate empire. It's not a penny of riba involved. It's all through raising cap. It's harder. I see the stress and the what he goes through on a daily basis. But it's all
hard work.
Yeah, it's all hard work. It's all mudaraba. It's all legit. People are investing and he's doing the work and managing the project and then selling it off and the next one and so on and so forth. So can you explain this to me? Like, what is the basis for this concept of this is the most halal option? Or is there even a basis? Is that something that's just, a very lenient approach that is rejected?
Yeah. The challenge I personally have with that approach about the most halal X.
Yeah. So I need some energy from that.
It's because it's not something you need to survive. Like if like there's the example that he gave when I was on one of his podcasts. For those who don't know, Saifuddin wrote a book. Saifuddin wrote the book Bitcoin Standard.
Okay.
So he mentioned it's like people on an island, deserted island, shipwreck, and they found that the only thing that's edible on the island is some pigs that are living on the island. So obviously we all know it's halal because that's the only option that's available.
Yeah.
It's the least, as the idea of you dying or eating pork, there's this. But after a few generations of surviving, living on these pigs, we're building a cuisine around these pigs. Another shipwreck happens and some cattle comes on the island. Now you have some diversity. You have some sheep on the island. Now you have a halal option. but people still want to. They've got so used to the pig that this is now no one's saying now. Okay, well now we have the halal option. Let's just stick to that and forget the pig. It's almost become, like I said, they built a cuisine. They've built a whole thing around. And that's kind of what I see with Islamic finance, or that thing is that we've been since from the 70s, especially from 50s, 60s, 70s onwards, throughout the world. We've been smothered with the infrastructure of riba. There wasn't really an option, realistically, other than what we've been given. That's why I made a video some years ago saying that we need to build systems before systems are built for us. Because when systems are built for us, they don't have our considerations involved. That's why I like when people are building things.
Yep.
Because if you don't build those things with our considerations involved, then we have this conversation. It's the best option we have. But in terms of making money, though, that conversation seems to be even weaker than the scenario we gave with the pig, because that was an issue of life or death. Earning income is not an issue of life and death. Okay, there are other things you might not be as profitable. If you're saying, yeah, this option's available and I can get ahead, but if I don't take this option, I'll be held behind, which is what Abdul was always telling me, is that we're in a system where we're always disadvantaged. And I remember when I first set up the center back in 2012, my friend of mine who's an accountant, he said to me, we were discussing, I kind of having a laugh about me when I was trying to set up the center, that if I was like any other Joe, I'll be able to take a loan out and get things done. Whereas I'm taking it this long way. But in the process of doing that, the other guy next to me, who took the loan, he's gone now. He's flown ahead, and I'm still, like you said, doing the hard work.
You build everything with your hands.
Yeah, you take it one by one. You're doing things like that. So you kind of at this disadvantage, and I can understand when people feel they have that feeling. But bro, I know you're saying that this is haram and stuff, but I'm looking at the halal option 5 years, or the other option I could do it in 1 year. It becomes a real emotional challenge for yourself. Emotionally, like, okay, come on, there must be a way I can do this in a Sharia compliant, even if it's not fully, but it's the best thing. You know, I'm always hearing that, and I see that challenge. And unfortunately, I don't have an option, a solution for all the scenarios out there. And I do say to people, you know what, we have to acknowledge that in right now there may not be a solution that's available in what you want to do. So it's definitely a hard one.
I think as well, just to kind of answer the question, the scholars that do permit it, they permit it based upon principles that they've deduced. Whether you agree or disagree, it's not the best halal option. It's a halal option for those that take that view, right? And which is, like I said at the beginning, a majority of view in Islamic finance. We're speaking about conventional banking, mortgages, and so on and so forth, equity. So that third, it comes from as you know, the hadith, thuluth wa thuluth kathir. So it mentions a third, and a third is a lot, which they deduce from that anything under a third is considered a little. Okay, there's no little in sins in major sins like riba. That's the issue, right? So this is that's what you're saying, right? So there's no issue.
Like who said we could take a little riba in the first place?
Right? But what they're kind of saying is they go down. Well, we've got not much choice. It's a bit of a necessity, stuff like this. Where it's the only halal alternative type of thing.
The issue of taking a mortgage in the UK. Some have said, just at least one house
for ownership because they show necessity.
Back to some issues. There's difficulty mortgage. And at least one kind of like making it easy.
This is now, I think, where wara comes into place, right? Is that you have to now stand before Allah and say it was a necessity for me.
Yeah. So what do they do? They're going to purify the wealth, meaning that whatever's connected to riba, they give away without receiving reward, right? Which is what happens. So, and it's the same principle of money in a bank account. The only difference is the bank account, I guess, is more of a necessity than going through a investment where you're making extra profit. There's more alternatives to. Do you know what I mean?
So
there are choices in terms of investment and making money. 100%, definitely.
I mean, this is
stocks is one of them.
Yeah,
but there's loads. You know what the brother's building, right? Sammy's building. That's an alternative. Individual businesses, set up a business yourself, set up a trade yourself. There's so many more alternatives than just investing in stocks and shares. Stocks and shares, it gives you guaranteed return 12%. You can, if it's an index, you know you're going to get 12% a year, 15%. It's better than leaving your money in a bank account, which it's Islamic savings. There's a Islamic savings account opening up soon as well in Wahid Invest on the side note. Not that I'm giving them a shout out, but I'm just letting Muslims know the options that are out there. But the point is that it's with regards to invest in stocks and shares and purifying your money, and there's so many other alternatives. It just means you have to be a bit more creative and
a bit more creative,
and you put in a bit more work, basically, right? And again, even stocks and shares, there is risk. Right, people think that's risk-free. It depends on if you're going to choose a portfolio yourself, you're going to get someone else to do your portfolio for you. You're going to go in a basket of the top. And the baskets, they also have their own problems as well. Yeah.
So what I fear generally with this topic though, is how much of this is just laziness. As in this option, which is kind of halal in a way, mashihal kind of, is it just out of laziness why people are taking these options? Because if the halal option is available, but it's a lot of work, are we just going for the other option because it's easier? And I think this is where I'm myself. I'm not too convinced that we need to always.
The thing that really struck me with what you said, that analogy you gave about the pigs. That, all right, if there's pigs on an island and there's nothing else, then cool, you can eat it out of necessity. But then you don't start making cuisines out of it. You don't start opening up a pig restaurant and then put halal pig. Like, you don't start doing that, right? So. And then when you have cattle, for example, available, it now becomes obligatory on you to go to that halal food, which is not why now the fact that there are options that are halal, right? For example, 100% riba-free real estate investment opportunities, Bitcoin, other things, so on and so forth. Then it perhaps, I'm not giving a fatwa here, could become obligatory.
Well, I wouldn't say could, it would be. Like but you said, if you have two options, one is halal, one was haram, one was a necessity at one point. The thing is, the issue, this is the key point. When we say something is a necessity, it doesn't make it halal. It means that the sin is lifted.
Yeah.
That's a very key point.
A very important point.
So people think, but because we're dealing with it, we kind of think, okay, it's okay now. No. We're just saying that it's like the issue of tayammum. It's mubih. It's something that facilitates, it allows because you have circumstances, but it doesn't mean it's now jaiz.
It replaces wudu. Yeah.
And that's a very important nuance.
Barakallah feek.
Sheikh, I want to mention a quick pointer here. I think Sheikh Muawiyyah mentioned a very important thing. When system is built for us and we're not building the system, of course it's not going to cater to us 100%, and we'll have to find ways to fit into that system, right? And there's always going to be two types of people who are followers, who fit into any system, but there are few amongst us who could be potential leaders, who could come up with that system that they build that is meant for us.
That's what the cave's for, isn't it?
that caters to us, right? And basically what I'm saying is leaders stand up, right? So I think if you think you're a leader in your field, don't just follow. Come up with your ways where you can build a system that's catered to us instead of finding ways, okay, how do I fit into that system? And on that point, another thing, Sheikh, if you actually go into investments, right? Who's known as one of the greatest investors of all time? Warren Buffett. Never invested in index funds. Never in his life. Really, yeah? Never in his life invested in index funds.
As he built his own custom portfolio?
No, what he said, Sheikh, is what is index fund? You're investing in 500 companies at the same time, pennies each, right? Or 250 companies, let's say, with the Sharia screening, right? What Warren Buffett says, that's a good hedge against ignorance. I'm not an ignorant person, so I don't diversify my portfolio. If you're an ignorant person, that's good for you. So are we this is what Warren Buffett said, are we supposed to stay ignorant forever and just put it in the index funds? No, real wealth is made by concentrating your effort into one or three big moves. Warren Buffett says, I get paid to make one or two moves every decade or something.
But you know what you're saying, yeah? If I can push back with respect.
Please.
It's really counter to like what any standard wealth manager would ever give you as advice. So you have to diversify. How do you protect yourself?
Yes. So let me tell you why the wealth managers give that. Yeah. Right. So the penalty you get for being wrong is far greater than the reward you get for being right as a wealth manager. So you get penalized way more than you get rewarded. So if you give an unconventional strategy to someone, and if that's a winner, that's a winner, pat on the back. If that's a loser, you lose your job. Your family is homeless. There's nothing left. Okay? So I'll just stick to the conventional method, because conventional method, everybody's doing it. So if I give the wrong advice, oh, well, everybody's wrong. What can you do? If I give the right advice, oh, pat on the back. So it's the same reward for me. Pat on the back here, pat on the back there. But risk is much bigger here if I'm wrong. But risk is less here if I'm wrong, because it's the conventional method. Oh, just diversify, right? So actual investors, they don't really diversify into 250 stocks. It just doesn't make sense.
So you we mentioned before that monthly 6 figures plus through passive income alone through your investments. Allah barik. How much have you diversified?
Putting me on spot, Sheikh. You know the answer. It's all in one asset class. But again, I don't, which is real estate. But I don't advise that also for everyone, because this is an asset class I understand very well. I'm an operator in real estate. I'm not just an investor in real estate. I'm an operator. I understand the game. For example, Sheikh Muawiyyah, he would probably say, I put all my money in Bitcoin. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Bitcoin is money.
Yeah, so he's an operator in Bitcoin that he's a subject matter expert, right? But even then, when you do diversification, I think diversifying in 250 to 500 companies is just insane. There's no, like, what are you doing, right?
I think they call it spray and pray.
Yeah, exactly.
Spray
and pray. Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, with spray, you're getting dots of paint, right, Sheikh? This is exactly the word the phrase they use, spray and pray. With spray, you don't actually change anything in the room. It's just going to be dots everywhere.
So you make a little bit of money, but not.
I mean, it's not making an impact. It's a spray, Sheikh.
It's almost the closest thing you can get to gambling without actually officially being gambling. We just literally throw in the dice and see which one of them hits the actual win.
Look, Sheikh, don't get me wrong. If I'm a 16-year-old, I work in, let's say, in Dunkin' Donuts, right? And I go to school, I'm working hard, and I'm saving some money. I want to do something with it. Of course, I don't know a whole lot. Of course, put it into, let's say, Wahid, the Halal index fund, right? But my thing is, know that this is a hedge against ignorance, and ask yourself, how long am I going to be ignorant?
If you're like any decent Muslim out there, I know you wish you understood the Arabic language so that you could connect with the Quran. Do you know how long it took me to learn the Arabic language? It took me like 7-8 years. And you know why I'm kind of upset about that? It's because I've recently come across Ijada Institute, which has students speaking Arabic in 6 months. In 6 months. So I was mind blown. So I decided to connect with the founder and the teacher, Sheikh Abdurrahman, and I asked him, how did you do it? And he built a system, Allah barik, that focuses specifically on teaching those that are non-Arab speakers living in the 21st century, i.e. our context, how to study Arabic. Most of the programs that you're going to see out there in the books were not even designed for Westerners or non-Arab speakers. And if they were designed back in the 90s and the early 2000s. This is a program that's mind-blowing. I actually listened into one of the calls that they have with the students. They log on and they talk to each other and they talk about their day. And I was like, wow, these brothers and sisters, of course, there's no free mixing. They are talking in fluent Arabic in 6 months. Now, of course, you have to put the hard work and you have to do the work, but you can just focus, just doing a small amount every single week. And within 6 to 12 months, inshallah ta'ala, you're going to be proficient. And then there's going to be that moment where you're going to be in salah, you're going to be reciting Quran, and it's going to come and you're not expecting, I promise, where you're going to relate to an ayah and it's going to touch your heart in a way, it's going to bring tears to your eyes. And that's going to be the beginning of your relationship with the speech of Allah. So if you want an Arabic Studies Institute that, inshallah ta'ala, works as far as I'm concerned, and within 6 to 12 months you want to be speaking Arabic and then, inshallah, understanding the speech of Allah, then apply to join Ijada Institute at the link below, inshallah ta'ala. I mean, I actually like what Hormozi said. If you're a 16, 17-year-old guy, you guys know Alex Hormozi?
Yeah.
May Allah guide into Islam. I mean, he's like, for most of his life, from that age up until very recent years, I don't invest in the S&P 500. I invest in the S in me. So his whole thing is the best investment at that stage
In yourself.
is in yourself to acquire and learn more knowledge.
Yes.
So you can then become independent and I guess, focus your investment.
Yeah, just me personally, I've never invested in index funds, but I'm not against it, Sheikh, for someone who's in that very early stage. But I've myself never invested.
Unless you take the view that it's haram.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I take the view. I don't have a position on it personally. I don't do it just because I don't see it as being something which I think there's better ways of making money. Like you mentioned, I think investing in yourself is one. Property is also another one. Bitcoin's a third one.
Yep.
So if someone comes to me and they're asking me an easy way to invest in money and they've got a long-term plan,
Yep.
They don't need
Yep.
a return in 1 year or
Yep.
2 years, I would say put in Bitcoin. If you've got someone that you can put in property in terms of shares of a property, then that's also good, because you're getting a appreciating asset, variable in terms of its actual value. Obviously, property, as you know, in terms of property, how you value property is very kind of arbitrary to a degree. What I mean by that is, one property could be 4 million, one next to it is 3.5 million, one up the road is 7 million. It's not something that you can value very easily. So it's but apart from that aspect of it, it's land, right? If it's freehold, and if it's leasehold, it's not. Yeah.
So at this point, I just want to mention it because some people might be like, wait, so what are these alternatives? And inshallah, that's why we made this podcast. We made this podcast to be able to educate you guys on these alternative different asset classes, so on and so forth. Also, inside of our network for high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals, we're actually introducing something. By the time this is released, it might have already been rolled out, which is Deal of the Month, which is that we basically, present to our members these type of opportunities. For example, there's a particular member within our network, alhamdulillah. He has exited 2 e-com businesses for 7 figures plus. We're talking USD. The third one he was about to exit realized actually he could grow it to a lot more and have a bigger exit. Maybe, like a 10x, 8x multiple. And is not in need of funding. He's not in need of fundraising. He's already raised 500,000. He's trying to raise 1 million. Already raised 500,000 for his personal network. So we were like, listen, bro, give our guys a chance to jump in. So we kind of present these type of deals to our members. Of course, it's up to them to do their own due diligence, to check everything and so on and so forth. But like every month, we present new opportunities of that nature. And inshallah, the expected returns on something like this is like, 20% every quarter, inshallah ta'ala. And then there's the big exit as well. Guys that are like seasoned operators. He's already had 2 exits, not playing in the small league. These kind of things, alhamdulillah, you find them if you go to the right places. So that level is inside of the cave. And then, of course, there's drips and drabs that we'll share inside the podcast and try and give you guys that insight. So we've done stocks, alhamdulillah. Let's move on to bonds and Sukooq, which is, I guess, apparently the Islamic version or the Halal version of bonds. Sam, explain to us, what is a bond? What's a Sukooq? And then
I think it's better if Sheikh explains. From my understanding, because I'm studying it right now, because there's a lot of big real estate farms that are issuing Sukooks right now.
Okay.
So basically, it's the issuance of debt, but there has to be an underlying asset for it to become Sukooq.
Okay.
Bond is just, for example, U.S. Treasury bond. This is the United States government raising money to go to finance the next war or finance whatever they want to do, right? So of course that we cannot participate in. But when there's an underlying asset, and basically based on the underlying asset, you issue debt, and basically you give fixed payments. So there's a lot of issues with it from what I'm seeing. And there are some people that are working on even better alternatives than Sukooq. So what could be a potential alternative is actually getting a real estate property, renting it out, and that replaces the Sukooq version. Because remember, when we're talking about allocation, why do bonds exist? Because you want to hedge against, okay, these are higher risk, higher reward type of investments that you have made. These are going to be very low reward, low return, but low risk as well. Right? U.S. Treasury bond. If U.S. fails, rest of the world fails, right? So invest in U.S. Treasury bond. That's their analogy. But since we cannot, so people are trying to come up with, okay, what are the Islamic alternatives? But I'll have Sheikh explain to us, what does he think?
The problem with Sukooq, obviously, is that it's based upon basically selling debt.
Debt, yep.
Right? And it's the worst type of way in which Islamic finance has replicated conventional finance.
Yep.
Really?
It's the worst. That and Tawarruq, the way it works at the moment, basically. Those are the 2 worst examples, to the point that IOFI are kind of interpreting the standard that pertains to tawarruk specifically, which is similar to how Sukooq are issued, basically, right? So on that point specifically, the other thing about bonds generally, outside of in the bond market, like you mentioned, they are low returns and they are generally supposed to be, safe bets, right?
Yep.
It's a low return, it's a safe bet. You're going to guarantee your money because the government doesn't default on their loans in their bonds, basically.
Apparently.
There's loads of other problems with the bond market, specifically that they're sold on a secondary market. There's all these other issues with it. And also, lately, bonds are returning less than the money that's in there. So they're now sometimes they even go into a minus. So they're not even great anymore. They used to be good. Yep. They're not great anymore.
You've had negative yield.
Yield on bonds.
What did?
Negative yield on bonds.
As in, imagine you bought a bond for £100. You got back 99.
You get back less. There was negative yield recently on bonds as well. Yeah. So
is Sukooq following the same trend?
Sukooq the trend is not the same, just because they kind of not as bad as that. It's not connected specifically just to money, right? But they
also
still
the underlying asset. I think is kind of
that's what's questionable, right? Is the underlying asset really there, or is it just this is where healer comes in?
Yes.
Is it just a healer? Is it form over substance? And the reality is, from what's apparent, Sukooq comes under that. So it's a healer. So you have to look at it properly. So the underlying asset is not really there. Do you see what I'm saying? They're using it to create the debt, basically. So yeah, I mean, I'd avoid Sukooq, generally speaking. There's alternatives, as you mentioned, and there's other ones. For example, I think what was it that Bruce was speaking about, tokenization of property investment. So there's other ways to do tokenization.
Yes. Yep.
So and I think the good thing is about these other ways, they're also simpler, they're less complicated, and they're less expensive as well in terms of the initiation of it or the implementation of it is straightforward, especially for young people that understand a digital age, right?
Yep.
So I think it's something that I would generally say avoid. Like it's the last thing that you would do if you even did it.
Sheikh, I have a question there. Some mandates force you to have that allocation, right? Yeah. So, for example, Wahid Invest, they have to have certain allocation towards Islamic Sukooq. Yeah. There's no way around it because they're regulated. They have to have it, right? It doesn't matter you agree or disagree. Yeah. Could you speak to that? Am I getting it right?
I mean, no, that's them having to have it. You're probably right. I don't know for sure, but I do know from someone that works in Wahid Invest, that's like up there. He himself questions Sukooq, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, he's a manager or whatever he is. He's not in charge of the whole organization.
Correct.
So if they have to have it, I guess they have to have it. And this is where it's the best form of halal. Or it's whatever. What was the phrase you used earlier? It's
the most halal.
It's the most halal.
It's so it's not halal when you're saying it's the most halal. You compare it against the least haram. It's a complete.
Yeah, that's quite better.
It's the least haram. It's the least haram because you compare it against bonds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So bond is completely. Right. There's no way that it can be permissible, right? In bonds, right?
Yeah. It's like when someone asked me about Islamic mortgage, and at the end of the conversation, I said, even if it's not riba, it's at least bay' ma la yamlik, selling what you don't own. It goes, it's not riba, yeah. But it's still selling what you don't own. Okay, as long as it's not riba, then I'm okay. As in, it's still haram, but it's not the haram.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at really in this day and age. But it kind of reflects what we just said a minute ago.
Yeah.
Build systems, and the systems are built for you.
Yep.
In some circumstances, you have systems just built for you. You have no recourse. You're told literally to do this. And there was one guy called Simon Dixon, Muslim now, alhamdulillah. He mentioned that he wanted to, before he's Muslim, he wanted to build a bank that was fully backed, not fractional. So even raise capital and whatnot, try and get it. But I had a meeting with the Bank of England to institutionalize and get this bank on the road. And they basically broke down to him what he has to do to get this. As in, you can do it. You can do the bank. But to be acknowledged and allowed to do that, you can be fully reserved, but the assets you have held with us will be fractional anyway.
Yep.
So you see.
Yes, we have had that discussion in America as well. With the only viable option was credit union, even then you'd have to follow their rules because the system is not built for you.
Yep.
Because we're talking about doing our own bank. It just doesn't work. You have to follow their rules.
So even if you wanted to,
Yep.
and you had the structure and the layout and everything was just simple. There's the legal part. We're saying, but hold on, but you have to be within our framework of haram to function.
I paid a consultant $10,000 a month for 7 months to find that out.
I think
It's like having a restaurant. Say, I want to open a restaurant. So I want to do halal meat and halal food and whatnot. So fine. But as long as you use this spice
Yes.
of pork
You're good.
pork rinds or whatever,
Yeah, you're good.
then you're good.
You can sell all your halal meat.
Because always halal meat, but just sprinkle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the points you mentioned, I think, is really important to kind of clarify. So where you're in a situation where it's more of a necessity than others. Not everybody's the same. A large organization that's dealing with other large organizations is not the same as an individual that wants to go and do something.
Right.
Individual, he's got no need. There's no necessity for the individual to get Sukooq just because he wants to.
Correct. Absolutely.
But as for the organizational structure, where in the market where this is something which is forced on them to some degree,
right,
then that's a different situation. So you have to deal with each client differently. And you have to also even empathize with the situation, the best halal, or we're trying to create a system within a system which is inherently, no matter the higher you go up, the more you realize, okay, the whole system is riba based, right? My money's in the bank. What are they doing with my money? Okay, you got no choice. Money has to be in the bank, right? But they're still using your money for
fractional.
So it's similar.
Ironically, there was one lady, Caitlin Long. She tried to open a fully reserved Bitcoin-based bank in America recently, and I think they took her to court to stop it, and then she recently lost the case. Just another example that you see many attempts from non-Muslims, even
expensive attempts.
Yes,
expensive
very
attempts.
expensive
She spent
attempts.
5 million on that case.
Lost
5 million just evaporated, just to find out that nope, you can't break this. You can't break our system.
Just underline just to find out. Just to get to the point of finding out.
But what I'm hearing in all of this is that you don't even need to go through the system. There's ways to kind of just bypass the system completely, right? It's only if you want to sit at their table and play their game that you have to sit.
You'll find a ceiling. It's not that you can't do it. You just find a ceiling. So, just example of Bitcoin. I know I'll go on Bitcoin all the time, but just imagine you was to do something in Bitcoin. You could, but the moment you become uber big, then you will be clamped on. You'll be clamped down. You reach a part whereby people will say you're now competing with the established system, and you will be shut down by legal or by pressure or whatever. It will happen.
If I may add one thing, I think we have to understand the why, right? So why do they want you to have some button allocation? Is it because, who are they? The regulators, right? Yeah. So the regulators, from their perspective, is like, okay, all this mass public will be investing in that fund. We need certain allocation, making sure it's low risk, even if it's low reward, so their capital is preserved in that way, right? So that's their why. So I think our work here is basically, even if it takes decades and centuries, to find out a product which is not debt-based and which actually meets that criteria. So for example, one product could be there's many Islamic institutions needing funding in the West, right? So you do their full check, like who are the imams, who's the board, how many members do they have, how well organized the organization is, the institution is. You check everything. And let's say they want to, all the time, they're fundraising to get a new building, get a new expansion. Okay, put 20% of your money into that. We're going to finance the 80%. So that's the finance transaction. That's separate. Over time, through your memberships, through your donations, you own the full building. No riba involved, nothing. And we do a separate contract, basically rental contract. You rent out the place from us. Let's say the rent is $100,000 a year, but because you own 20%, you pay $80,000 a year to us and 20% back to you because you're 20% owner, right? Now that instrument actually check marks everything that's required in Sukooq. Why? Because this tenant is not going to default because this tenant has 20% tied up in that building. This tenant wants to own the building. So I'm just saying there are ways.
Can you do that for a masjid though? Masjid is waqf, isn't it?
Can you do it for? He said institutions.
Yes, like madrasas, dawah organizations. Yeah.
Very nice. That's just.
The thing is, the problem with masajid, if you're talking about the West,
not masjid. Obviously, that's a waqf, isn't it? You can't.
That's what I'm saying.
You cannot rent and whatnot. Yeah.
I'm not sure about how the structure of masajid are in the West, because it's no Muslim country in the day. So if it's a waqf, who structures it? I don't know. I don't know how it works.
But let's say the
there's
organization,
many masajid,
Islamic schools,
there's many masajid that rent.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one, you know.
Yes, and that
There's
will be
many masajid that rent.
and that will be the best tenant never defaulting. Right? They have skin in the game, and you have done the due diligence. These are like imams of the community that have been serving the community for a while. The board is good, well
It's very
organized.
interesting.
Yeah.
The problem is that I'm just thinking out loud. Is that you said that they're reliable? They will always be paying the rent.
Yeah, look at the memberships,
Yeah.
community, the size of Muslims. If it's in the farmland and they're expecting in 3 years this many Muslims will come, maybe this will be a risky investment. But already there's Muslims in the community and there's a need for
It's a
Islamic
masjid in
school.
Whitechapel. It's a masjid in, like.
Sheikh, let's say there's Islamic school. Let's say there's so many communities in Michigan, so many like dense Muslim communities, but there's no Islamic school, right? So you do survey, you do all that, who's going to run it, you do all the due diligence, and like this Islamic school will be filled.
This would be a good one to present to Mashayikh, man, and see,
Yeah.
what's the...
I mean, the good thing about those investments, if we're going to call it investments, is that they have two benefits. You preserve your principal, you make profit, and at the same time, you have social impact.
Impact, yes, sir.
Yeah, and
You got the ESG score.
Yeah, basically.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's good. Education, especially when you're speaking about primary education or early secondary education, it works because it's compulsory.
Yep.
Right, so it works. After that, when it's not compulsory, it becomes less of a more challenging in terms of fundraising and stuff
It could
like
even
that.
be a school. Like a
That's what I'm
private
saying,
school.
Sheikh. That's what I'm saying, Sheikh. Islamic private school, Montessori school, so many things.
The only challenge I visage is that for it to be viable business as well, there has to be an option that if they don't pay, they leave, and that's now the moral dilemma. Is that would you ever evict a masjid that they're not paying?
This has to be presented to me. You know what it is? It's like you said, one thing that I've seen in my life, every time I've come across something like where there's an obstacle, it just requires a bit more creativity. Just tweak things. Just do this. Just add that.
I'm saying if that's the sort, if that's the way the situation is, if we're saying we're not going to evict you because you're a masjid, then now changes the dynamic of even paying, because they're not going to evict us, and that kind of causes that little.
But then that's the risk he takes.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah,
But Sheikh, that's the risk you take with any tenants, right? But I think it would be lesser of risk with a community-based, like an Islam masjid. I'm not sure, but like an Islamic school, I was more thinking is it like a dawah organization or an Islamic private school,
This is good. This
right?
is good.
Because the recurring revenue is there. The students are there. They're paying. Like you see the finances, you do the due diligence. And another thing is even the building, it's real estate, right? It's appreciating. So all of your 20% is appreciating. Our investment 80% is appreciating.
Islamic schools sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure that it's in communities where they can afford the fees
Absolutely,
and this and that, good operators.
And it's a much needed Sheikh. Quality Islam. Because the Islamic school like my kids went to in Michigan, subhanAllah, it was like a Muslim country club. Literally, it was like just showing off. Seriously, Sheikh, I felt like, what am I? It's totally out of place.
It's like a private school, basically.
Yeah,
Like
Islamic,
kids.
like I would say the best Islamic private school in Michigan. Like there's nothing, tuition was $1,200 a month per child. And I had 2 children, right?
Yeah.
No problem, okay? As long as the return is there. You go there.
That's right, yeah.
SubhanAllah, most teachers don't have hijab.
Yeah.
It's like a show, who's pulling up with which car.
Yeah.
The picnics are like, man, it's literally a Muslim country club.
Yeah, networked.
A network. Yeah. Like you just go there for networking.
The parents and everything.
So let's we've talked about stocks, we've talked about Sukooq / bonds, real estate. So that's like a standard, asset class people told to invest in. Now real estate, Sam, obviously is very broad. So what is it? Is it buying the house? Is it short-term rental, long-term rental? Is it development? Like what's the standard like go-to?
I think what Sheikh mentioned is a great point, is a great criticism to real estate, because the value differs so much. Like you could be $3 million house, your neighbor is 3.5, the next neighbor is 2 million. So how do you know what's the value in that street, right? How do you do that? So that's why what we focus on now is, for any investments that you take from the community, has to be in a institutional grade asset. What is an institutional grade asset? Like the cost of building it versus buying it, there has to be a significant difference, right? The replacement cost. Like if you were to buy it in the market, you would pay a premium.
So that's what institutional grade means.
Yes, one of the factors.
Development,
Yes,
rather than purchasing something already built.
Exactly. And then developing locations, like A-star locations, connectivity, all the amenities around it, or if it's a building, amenities in the building. Like let's say, would you be comfortable presenting this to a mutual fund, a life insurance, Blackstone? Like, would they buy it? If they were to underwrite this building, would they buy it? Literally, that's a simple question we ask ourselves. Like, if I was to present it to Stephen Schwarzman and his team, would they buy the building? You know, if the answer is like, I'm not sure, then okay, it's not institutional grade. Like, would you be comfortable presenting it to the highest of the highest institutions? And they're like, either they say, oh, we're not investing in their region now. If we were, we would buy it. That should be the only reason they don't buy this product, right? So it has to be that level. Second, more, learning and reading, alhamdulillah, Sheikh, like things you learn over the period. Because I've been in real estate in 2013, but now another criticism to real estate is it's very much, it's a reactive to the interest rates. It's very much reactive to interest rates. So that's a criticism.
This is if you're buying individual properties.
All of it.
Yeah, even the development phase.
The criticism is if the interest rates go up, the value goes down, or the demand goes down, at least the perceived value goes down because the demand goes down. Not everybody can afford to buy the same building.
It's an
inverse relationship, right? So for example, I'll quick for our audience, right? If the payment with a 6% interest rate is, let's say, $10,000 a month of a building, right? You underwrite it as like, okay, I can pay on this building $1.2 million. I get 10%, whatever. Now, with the interest rate goes up to 8%, your payment increases. So your cash flow decreases. So your value, the price that you're going to pay for that building as an investor decreases too, right? So it's reactive to interest rate. So then the counter to that is there are some markets, and alhamdulillah, like, well, I keep it like that, they are very less reactive, to the interest rate because most buyers are cash buyers. Some of the market is this region where we are right now. Yeah. 82% of the buyers are cash buyers. I only know what the prevailing interest rate is in this market because I'm in the field. Like, I just want to know what's happening and whatnot. Even then, I don't check daily. In the US, like the daily thing you check in the morning is what's the interest rate? What's happening with the Fed? What's happening? That's not the trend here. Nobody really cares. You ask a person who probably has 15 units in Dubai, ask them, what's the interest rate in Dubai? Like, what? I don't even know they do loans. Like, literally, people say that. I don't even know that you could get mortgage. Oh, how do you get mortgage? They just think it's off plan, it's cash. You pay the thing in full, either in 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years. There's a payment plan, and you have to pay it in full. So, in the market is 82% cash buyers. It's not as reactive to interest rate. So, alhamdulillah, that criticism does not apply in all the markets, but it does apply in markets like America.
So is that why in Emirates there's always these predictions of doom and gloom in the property market never materializes?
I wouldn't say never, Sheikh.
It does at the moment.
It does.
It's less reactive.
It's less reactive, and there's more factors. Mashallah, it's like an anomaly. For example, I was listening to Ray Dalio recently. He was here in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
Just 3 days ago, actually, he gave an interview to Bloomberg, and he said, subhanAllah, two things. It's his word. He said this is the closest thing to paradise when it comes to investments. When there is turmoil in the global world, he specifically talked about UAE. This is the closest thing to paradise when it comes to investment. And then second comment he made is it's the Silicon Valley of investments right now. Because the people here know how to manage money. They're disciplined with money. That's the reason he gave.
Is he talking about real estate or what?
He's talking about investments in general.
In
general, in the environment in this region, because the debt is frowned upon still. And may Allah keep it that way. Like, if they know, like, your car, you don't own it, it's like who is this guy? It's your house is financed, your car is financed, but in America, it's just flex. Yeah, I have 10 cars on finance. It's a flex because you're like, oh, his credit score must be so good. He must have so much income that he could finance 10 cars.
Yeah.
It's a flex in America. Here, it's not flex. It's really frowned upon.
So that's interesting because I thought that I'm just observing. I just thought that there was a lot more debt-based instruments here than you'd expect. But you're saying it's actually the opposite. It's might be available, but it's not really taken.
At least for real estate, Sheikh. At least for real estate. I don't quite know the other asset classes, but at least for real estate, it's not. And even then, they make it really hard. You have to have 40% down payment because I've also seen how the mortgage here works, which is great. In America, you could get a house for what? 3% FHA loan. 3% down payment. How much skin do I have in the game? And even then, if I get concession from my realtor, from the seller, even that 3% get credited. So we have we have seen people close deals with like $300 out of pocket. Oof. Buyers, $300 investment in the house. If push comes to shove, like I leave, I vacate the house. It's really
unhealthy then. In
very unhealthy. And now they want to do 50-year mortgage. We already talked about it. So it's just gonna get more and more unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the challenges with property that's already built. Right, is that just to, let's say, purchase it, there's so much other expenses as well.
Yeah.
That once you've actually bought it, especially in the UK, for example, you're actually down to start off with, especially if it's not a cash purchase. Even if it is a cash purchase, you've still got all the taxes, you've still got the fees, the lawyer's fees, you've still got all the other fees and if you're foreign, it's even more, right? We're over here, I'm sure it's a lot simpler, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, Sheikh, 100%.
It's a much better market.
And another point I want to make on the cash purchase, let's say in UK or US, like you did the right thing. MashaAllah, Muslim brother, you purchased your property cash, not liquidated, you rented it out, but all your 19 neighbors are on mortgage, 3%. Economy takes a little bit turn. They lose their job. They're leaving their house.
Foreclosed,
They're vacating, foreclosed. So you're the one-man show on a foreclosed street. So the perceived value of your house goes 20%, 30% down with them. You have not done anything.
Wow.
Yeah. You understand, Shah? It's crazy. So that's a criticism of real estate.
That's one interesting thing about, someone mentioned about Turkey. And that with all the economic problems that Turkey has with their currency, because their debt ratio with their properties is so low, it doesn't really affect the property market that much over there. I think something like 20% or even less of the properties actually
mortgaged.
Are mortgaged.
Yeah,
like
that's
very
great.
Small, so it can handle that shifts in thing, which is interesting.
Very interesting. I have not looked into Turkey, but if that's the case, that's a strong market for real estate.
Yeah.
So, in essence, what you're saying is development is the way to go because the margins are greater. It gives you buffer for these type of problems.
Yes, get into assets if you could. It's not always available, but if you could get into assets where your return is not tied to one door, one tenant paying rent, there's higher chances of things going south, right? Get into an institutional grade investment where there's 50 tenants, 90 tenants, 100 tenants, managed by an operator who has the real estate operation DNA, so forth and so. If you could get into those investments, those are better instead of buying one house and maybe you're also not an experienced landlord.
Any Sharia compliant things to look out for here?
I think there's just two things I'd kind of touch on, and I think this discussion has brought it out a little bit, is that property, everyone who's an individual investor, like when they want to, buy an asset on an asset in the West specifically, it's like, are you on the property ladder? Have you got do you own your own house? Meaning, have you got a mortgage on the house, right? And I think there's a big misconception in terms of how actually good it is as a investment, long-term or short-term, right? And I think, especially when you add to that, the fact that it's hard to do without avoiding some haram. Like at the least, the best provider says that you have to have insurance and they need to cover themselves, right? Yeah. That goes without saying, right? Because the ones that do it properly, the diminishing partnership, there's not many that do it well. The ones that do it properly, they still have to cover themselves. So no matter what you do, there's no 100% halal, 100%, right? There's insurances there. So I think that's an important message, that there's alternatives even for the individual that wants to build some type of wealth, that it's not going to always be in getting a mortgage and buying a house, right? You can rent and invest money, make money other ways. I think the second important point, and it comes down to those 5 principles, is even if you are doing it the right way, wherever you are, you have to acknowledge that you don't get guaranteed profit.
Yep.
Anytime a profit is going to be guaranteed and there's no risk involved, that's a red flag, because that's an indication of riba, basically. Right? So there has to be risk. There's no profit without risk. Basically. Yep. So, and as long as you accept that in your investment, you don't think that you're guaranteed, you're definitely going to get money back. Percentages aside, whatever percentage is mentioned to show so a person can understand their return. Right. There has to be risk. There's always going to be risk, whatever that risk is. But if risk is completely removed, then that's a riba, basically.
So is that why there's a direct conflict between Islamic principles and regulators, because you mentioned that the regulators, they add these instruments to reduce the risk, and you're saying basically you need to have risk to have money. Is that what
reducing risk? Yeah, I think reducing risk is everyone has to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Correct.
You
mitigate the risk.
You mitigate the risk.
Yeah.
You mitigate the risk as much as possible.
Yeah.
But when there's no risk,
Yeah.
you're guaranteed a return, irregardless of what happens to the business or to the investment.
Then you're actually lying, Sheikh, right? Like the person is lying. Actually, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
It's lying. The person's taking a loan and giving back a riba, basically. However they've worded it, again, there's a form, they've made it look like it's an investment, but the substance of it, the reality of it isn't an investment, it's actually a loan with riba, basically.
It's like these murabaha contracts. Like, as in essence, they're making it seem like someone is going and purchasing the house.
Not the house, like commodities.
The commodity. And then he's going to sell it to you for a profit.
Yeah.
But actually, there is no risk because...
There's I think that in those situations there's no liability on them, which is a problem.
Yeah.
There's risk in the sense of that's fine, because that's a contract where you've promised to buy it once from them, and you've identified what it is that you're going to buy. There's other issues with it, but it's not that there's no risk there. The problem is that if it's supposed to be shared ownership in terms of musharaka or Murabah, you're going to buy it at a higher price. There's generally not a problem with that if it's a straightforward
as long
thing.
as they are
promised to buy.
actually, as long as
they have to take ownership of it.
Possession.
Yes.
I know.
They have to take possession. They have to
as
take
long as
ownership of it. Before
usually that
they
doesn't
sell it to
happen
you.
in most cases.
Ownership doesn't. There's two types of ownership. You can take actual possession of it, or ownership on paper, where you don't actually take possession, but it's in your name. You owned it, hukman, right? Well, as opposed to right? So generally speaking, Murabah is a straightforward contract. It's permissible. There's no kind of difference of opinion on the permissibility. The promise to buy,
if it's done properly.
The promise to buy aspect of it, some people say, well, that's just a promise to buy. You don't have to buy it. Well, it's a condition that you've agreed to, so you're tied to it.
Yeah.
Right. So you do have to buy it because it's a condition in the contract. So the argument of it's impermissibility contracts and one, it's not really strong, because Murabah contracts are what most contracts are based on in terms of assets that you're buying and selling on to other people. The only issue comes is if there's not really any type of actual purchase, in the sense that it's an underlying asset which is used to create debt only. So and this is where the issues come up. So how it's done a lot of the times is a click of a button.
Yeah, date palm tree
It's all done based on algorithms. All done based upon. There's not actually anything really happening in the background where there's actual ownership taking place. That's where it becomes problematic, basically, in terms of buying and selling something on to create money. That's where tabarruk comes in. That's where the Sukooq issue comes up now, and it's become an issue even more recently as more scholars are getting involved in looking at Islamic finance structures, basically. Yeah,
and even just drawing back to what you said at the very beginning, but the intentions and what are you even trying to achieve in the first place. A lot of these contracts and agreements strip away all the contractual structures and names and whatnot. Essentially, what you're trying to do is get a loan. If you just strip out all the nonsense, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to purchase something and I haven't got the capital to do so. So I'm agreeing to pay you back more for helping me do that.
Yeah. So the alternative that they always say is the person buys the equipment that you need and leases it to you, right?
Yep.
So for example, if it's a factory and you need a machine to make money, okay, you instead of going and buying a loan, I want the machine, I'm going to lease it from you and pay it off over the period of afterwards. At the end of it, for example, you're going to sell it to me.
Is he renting it, or is it?
He's renting it. He's renting it. He's leasing it. He's not renting it.
You can't eventually
he's
purchase
renting
it.
it. He can purchase it. So it's understood. There's a promise at the end of it that he's going to give it to you for the price, whether it's a gift because you've already paid for it or however. But the point is, there's alternatives. Like taqseet is when you're paying it off over time and you own it, right? Yeah. This way, rental, it serves the person better because there's no ownership only after they paid a certain amount. You're renting it.
Okay.
So it serves the investor better than than selling it to him, because now you've given over ownership and he just owes you money.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easier.
So the ownership remains with you.
Maintaining ownership is always better in these types of, like the example going back to the institutions.
If you default, you can sell it off or give it to
someone. It's yours. It's still yours. Go back to the institution example. There's less risk because you own the asset. You own the property. They're leasing it. It's still your property, right? Whereas if you gave them the money and they purchased it, they own it and they owe you the money, right? A Qarat Hasan, for example. Right. So instead of giving a Qarat Hasan, you'd buy the building and they'll lease it from you, and then they're paying it. At the end of it, they're going to diminish musharaka. They're going to the more they pay, they're also buying it back. That was in the property. But in terms of equipment for factories and stuff like that, you wouldn't necessarily do that. You would just lease them what they're using basically. And a lease contract's permissible. No one disputes the permissibility of a lease contract. In terms of as a way to get finance rather than the loan with interest, basically.
I have a question. So this lease contract, I'm trying to understand. So ownership stays with me. I've purchased it. So and so's paying me rent. Yeah. Am I compelled to give it to him at the end?
There's an agreement, like the same as the contract of musharaka, where at the end of it there's a promise to buy it, or
isn't that two contracts in one?
No, it's a promise. It's a promise to sell it basically at the end of it at a set price. So let's look at it like this: you lease a car. Yeah. At the end of it, after 5 years' time, you want to purchase a car. That person's happy to go and sell you the car. How much are they going to sell it to you for? Do they take into consideration how much you've paid already? Do they take into consideration the value of the car at the end of the time? But they're going to sell it to you, right, at the end of it. But the first contract's a lease. The second contract's a promise to sell.
And
it's different to the example of diminishing musharaka in the sense that diminishing musharaka is you're leasing and buying at the same time. That's where you have two contracts in one.
How is this different
more than anything else? This is purely a lease contract. And you'd use it for you wouldn't use it for property, but you'd use it for equipment in a business. You need finance in your business. You need an injection of capital in your business. Okay, I got options. I can go and get a loan from a bank. Right? I don't know, or I can get an investor. Investors are a problem because they have share of the business. I might not want to give a share of the business. Loan from the bank's problem because it's riba. Qard Hasan is hard to get hold of because it's just hard to get hold of. What other alternatives are there? That's the question, right?
So what are they?
Yeah. So the one of the cleanest ones for a business that seems to be there is a lease contract, because you need the machine. The machine, you want the machine to do what in a factory? To make money. The machine is what's going to help you produce the product that you're selling. That's going to make you money. The machine itself isn't what you're selling or so you only need to lease it anyway. Okay, you're paying for the lease. Okay, there's a promise that the person that bought it for you.
So I'll give you a real life.
They've given you the machine, or they're selling contracts as well. You can use for manufacturing, obviously, or it's just now contracts. Those are the two types of contracts which are usually used for manufacturing. But if you didn't want to go down that route, which Selim is fine, you could just lease. The issue is this: there's no question about the permissibility of leasing, right?
I have no issue with that.
The question is, we want to be able to have our cake and eat it. We want to be able to
lease it and own it.
Lease it and own it. We want to be able to make sure that we're not spending money without getting something, right? So some contracts we don't like the look of because it seems like it's wasted money. But if you think about it properly, the machine is what's producing your money. You need the machine in the first place to produce the product that you're selling, that's making money.
The profit is going to be maybe a little bit less over time.
The profit might be slightly less. It might not be, because the risk, the issue of profit. This is a beautiful thing about Islam, right? And this is the thing: the barakah in your wealth, the numbers. You can't guarantee them. Allah's the one that puts barakah in your wealth.
Exactly.
Do you understand? So the numbers, it's not about the numbers. It's about the barakah in your wealth. It's about the quality.
It's a very.
Do you understand?
Point.
It's not about numbers. You can look at numbers all day long. Oh, this is that much margin. This is that much. It's about barakah. Numbers can be high. There's no barakah. Doesn't mean anything. Numbers can be a bit lower or seem lower, but there's barakah. It means everything.
Barakah is the ability to do more with less.
MashaAllah. Yeah. Who came up with that? Anagu.
I'd rather not say who I got it from. I want to give a real life scenario. So the brother who just joined the cave, right? Allah Barak, he buys and sells cars and he's big in the automotive space in the UK. I'm actually going to, if you don't mind, request you to talk to him on the phone.
Inshallah.
So I'm actually answering this question on his behalf. I made a promise yesterday that I would. So he is looking for a halal solution for financing cars en masse, right? So he wants to scale now. Do you know what I'm saying? Even more so. So are you saying he should find someone to buy the cars from him, buy the cars for him at like a cheap price, under market value, whatever, so on and so forth, and then he then does what?
I think he's got many options, and Sam is probably in a better position to kind of look at them and mention them. But I don't think he's in a situation where he needs to use financing to do his business, to scale his business. obviously you've got investors. If you're able to secure investment, then that's giving a share of your business. If you're unable to do that, then you can, whoever's going to put in money wants money back. That goes without saying. They're not going to tie up their capital
100%.
without expecting a return.
Yep.
Right? Some people want a larger return. Some people want a smaller return. It's always about your job is to make money as an investor, isn't it? It's not to lose money. But I also understand there's risk. Yeah. So you see about him lessening the risk, so it looks like a good offer. So he has to make sure the offer looks very, very good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Without lying and without making it guaranteed profits and doing hila and stuff like that. That's the most important thing. Because barakah goes. Yeah. Barakah goes when there's riba, when there's gharar, when there's all those principles we mentioned. The barakah's gone from your wealth straight away. And we want barakah in our wealth. We don't want, it doesn't matter if it's not a lot like you mentioned at the beginning, as long as we know that we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and
He's happy with us.
That's right. He's pleased with us, right? We're pleased with what we put forward. We were trying. So I think in terms of as a specific answer, it's hard to kind of give one, not knowing more details.
Okay.
But the point is that there are alternatives, especially if he's part of your network. He's joined the cave anyway. Alhamdulillah, there's investors. The offer just has to be right. And
Sheikh, I think possibly the investor can buy the car.
Yeah.
He fixes, and when he flips, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When he flips, there is an agreed upon, split on the profit.
Split on the profit, yeah.
Probably in the beginning, because if the investor does not see the track record, does not see the value, because I don't know the brother, maybe give more towards the investors. 60-40 in favor of the investors, 70-30, I don't know.
Is that what you've done, right? Because
in the beginning, that's how we did the whole fixing and flipping Detroit, one street at a time.
You give them an unreasonably bigger piece of the pie.
On their side in the beginning, Sheikh. To get the trust, to get the ball rolling and the referrals come.
This is the thing what I've noticed with a lot of these type of situations, brothers.
The offer has to be
the
good,
offer is the
basically.
problem.
The
offer is the problem.
And it has to be permissible.
Yeah. I was speaking with a brother yesterday who has got like a media company, right? I'm going to talk to you more about it later. And it's about presenting it as like one of the deals of the month.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, bro, I just in my mind I was like, I don't see the offer. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, as in, what's the?
It's not a deal.
what's the return? Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, people give money. I've seen people just cough money in the direction of literally on projects, as long as there's returns.
There's a deal. There's a deal to be made.
Beautiful. Barakallah feek. Okay, so that's the financing element, right? We kind of touched upon financing. There's no such thing as financing through debt. It has to be either qard hasan,
or investment,
or an investment.
Yeah,
actual risk.
There has to be risk. Yeah.
And the investment can be structured in various different ways.
There's loads of different ways that you can structure it.
But it's it. So there's no such thing as a halal loan in which you're gonna give more.
And they can maintain their principle.
Can we talk about salam?
I think that's really important.
Maintain the principle.
Because the point is that people put in money in a business because they want to maintain their principle and get some money on top, right? And maintaining principle isn't always possible. The business doesn't do well. Then why don't you suffer with the business suffering?
100%.
Why have you still got your whole? You pull out and you get all your capital plus you get profit. How does that happen?
That's one of the sad things about
and that's the problem.
I think the great thing about this, right, is that people usually, when they want to deploy their capital, they want to deploy it into projects where, they trust the guy that they're giving the money to. He's a great operator. He's got a good track record. I think it requires...
And they've seen the business,
right?
I think the trust part of it is secondary. The do your own research is primary, i.e. the business is a good business. Yes. It's a good business. It's got social impact as well. Yeah. Because social impact's important. I think people underestimate the social impact aspect 100%. Of it. Money is only the means.
Yeah.
Right? The means to do what? The means to have a social impact socially.
Yeah.
Right? So making money is good and money shouldn't depreciate. You shouldn't lose money. But you should also think about, and that's what Islam is. That's why we're Muslim. Right? That's why we don't do riba. That's why we don't do gharar fahisha. That's why we don't do these things, because it's harmful socially, very harmful socially. On the flip side, we want to make sure our money is doing what? Doing something good socially, right? Whatever that is, whether it's building affordable housing, whether it's, do you get what I mean? So there should be that social aspect.
So just narration comes to mind from Imam Hassan al-Basri. I think it's just pertinent to mention, people that make money from haram, one of the ways that they feel like they can kind of get out of it is to give charity, right? and they see someone who's poor or struggling, their heart has mercy, they give sadaqah, and they feel like, I'm balancing out the bad with the good, right?
Yeah.
So Imam Hassan al-Basri said to the person who does that, he said, Ya ayyuhal mutasaddiq alladhi yarham al-miskin. O you who is giving charity because you feel mercy towards the poor person, irham man qad zalamt. You should have had mercy on the one you oppressed when you took the money in the first place.
In the first place, yeah.
Gharar, riba, all
Yeah.
these things. You oppressed someone to take that money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Someone was oppressed, and just because you didn't see the oppression, like riba is one of the most oppressive things in the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because you don't see its effect, you engaged in. There's a brother I know, subhanAllah, who ended up engaging in an investment that blew up. It unicorned. Yeah.
Mashallah.
And but it
wasn't.
it's based on this tawarruk thing and everything, and he realizes it's riba, bro.
Yeah.
It's haram. So he went to a sheikh, and it's just interesting the fiqh of the sheikh. He was like, I want to do tathir of this wealth. So when it comes, I just want to give it all away. So his exit's due soon, right? So he's been like, it's amazing how some people are, subhanAllah. This guy's an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, but sometimes people's hearts, only Allah knows. So he went to the sheikh, he said, Sheikh, like, what do I do? She said, just give it all away. Just when it comes, that wealth is not yours, don't touch it, just give it all away without expecting what? Reward. But then the sheikh said something to him. Is this thing that you invested in, it's creating corruption. It's creating fasad. So where you give the money, I want you to give the money to a place that's going to create islah, it's going to create khair. Just to balance the corruption you've helped seed in the world. Is that you now have to, don't just give it to build motorways.
Yeah.
Give it somewhere where
It's going to have an impact.
it's going to have a beneficial impact. The brother spent over a year searching for a project. He spent over a year searching for something he could give the money to that would have impact positively. He was literally optimizing for impact, and literally jumped on planes, visiting different people around the world. Where shall I give it?
Yeah.
Something like different like that. Man. Inshallah, I would.
Sheikh, can I mention something quick? It's very important. Sheikh mentioned a lot of people when they invest, they say, "Oh, okay, profit. I understand. There's no guarantee, but like is my capital guaranteed?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
That's the
ask that
problem,
question, all the time, Sheikh.
Yeah.
And we say in our contract, we clearly mention like everything could go to zero, including your capital.
Yeah.
It could. Okay.
Unlikely.
Now, yes, unlikely. Now the
Unlikely.
question comes, okay, how much? That's where the risk mitigation and all that comes in.
Yeah.
How likely? So that's where we have to do the explanation of, okay, this is your entry. Market hasn't been there in that entry point for the last 10, 12 years. So highly unlikely that it comes. Now already the market is trading 40, 50%, 60% above that. We're talking about real estate. But you cannot say that your capital is guaranteed.
not
Only
risk,
Allah
yeah.
knows. I say only Allah knows what's going to happen. But we are also investing a large sum of our own money, and we wouldn't invest in something if we thought there's a high chance of everything going into loss. But you have to know that, right? That's
That's
very
right.
important.
And that's always a good factor that the person, you expect it. If you're investing in it, then that shows that you believe in the project yourself.
Of course, you have to have skin in the
You
game.
have to have skin in the game. But that's a question you'd ask. Okay, you're asking me to invest. Are you invested in it? How much are you invested in? How much are you exposed?
What percentage?
What percentage? You're asking me to expose how much percentage? Okay, what you expose? If you see that they're exposed similarly, for example, then you kind of understand that they believe in this project. It's not just a money grab, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And stuff like that. It's not scammy, right? So that's a very important question if you are a person that's going to invest in something.
So I guess you put 20% down on every project yourself.
Actually, a little bit more than close to 25%. Inshallah.
Allah barik.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
طيب, let's talk about Bitcoin. Yeah. Is Bitcoin permissible? Is it a good investment? We're talking about it from an investment perspective.
My topic. I don't know how long we've got left, but I do want to touch on a very important topic that you mentioned at the beginning as well, which is zakat. Obviously, talking about making money is a blessing from Allah, and there's an obligation on money.
Okay, before you make that transition, just so I can just tie the point. So we haven't discussed alternative asset classes, right?
Yeah.
That will, I guess, be a different podcast episode, inshallah.
Because I don't know how much time you've got, right?
You're right. It's good to.
And the zakat aspect is a pillar of Islam. It's a
massive.
third pillar.
It's
And
massive.
people generally don't always calculate it right, number one. Or they kind of are a bit lax on when they pay it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But just because of they don't put enough effort to pay it because they find excuses why they don't have access to the money, and that's a very dangerous road, basically, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's a third pillar of Islam.
Yeah.
It's we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know how good our records look. We'll be able to work it out. Are we going to meet Allah? And we've got zakat, which is owed, right?
And the thing is, zakat is really serious. I mean, Abu Bakr went to war.
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things in terms of education-wise, before educating on, do your research on the company, do your research on investment, whatever you're investing in, if it's a long-term investment, 5 years, right? Well, that's not even long-term, that's kind of average, right? 5 year, 3 year tying up your money. You'll make sure you've also planned your zakat for those 3 years as well. You're planning your profit ratio, you're planning your margins, you're planning how much you're going to get back. Okay, how much do you owe over those 3 years if it's a certain amount? Because it's going to be over the nisab, right? That's a really important thing to do, because that should be kind of we're worshippers of Allah and we're using, we're trustees on this earth, we're using his ni'am and blessings to worship him, right? So we have to make sure that's the priority in terms of, and that's why fiqh of finance begins with fiqh of zakat. People sometimes don't realize that.
Yeah, 100%.
But fiqh of finance begins with the third pillar of Islam, which is zakat, which is connected to the salah. Finance, zakat's first, and then everything else comes afterwards. Contracts. Look at the books of fiqh. You know what I do.
And unfortunately,
salah, zakat, Sawm, Hajj, then mu'amalat afterwards, right? So that, I think, is just to kind of get that out there before we go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a big topic. It's very important.
No, Barakallahu Feek. So let's spend some time on zakat then, because how does one pay? So this is a question, right? So Sam,
can I explain my situation, Sheikh? We'll start with that, inshallah. So basically, Sheikh, our investments, partners come in and they partner up with us as a joint venture into the real estate. So for example, the total project is 75 million dirham. We're raising 45 million dirham, self-funding 30 million dirham. And this is a build to sell development. So the permits take 6 months or so. Then we start construction. The construction takes another 16 to 18 months, then selling, handover, and everything. So the total project timeline is 2 years to 2.5 years. The expected money the partners will make is close to 50%, inshallah. That's the expected, it could be more or less, right? And then they have their capital. So how much, let's say, and the minimum investment is 100,000 USD. There are some brothers who have invested 1 million USD each. So how would they pay their zakat on their investment? They don't have access to that money. There is no cash flow coming. They're going to get inshallah, they're going to get their capital and inshallah, the expected profit in minimum 2, maximum 2.5 years. So what do they do in that period?
I mean, generally speaking, I think it would be good if there's a way that you as the investor, the one that's managing it, organizes and says within it, this is the zakat that's going to be paid yearly based upon your investment. So that's one way to do it, since the money's with the person that's managing it. If that's not possible, then it's that bad. That's a them problem. It's their investment. It's their zakat. They have to work out how to pay it. It's not your problem, basically. I don't know if that. I'm not speaking about your specific situation. It needs more details to look into it. But in general, zakat is the person. It's my obligation to pay my zakat if I have the nisab, and to work out the amount, to find out how much it is, and to pay it if it's not done on my behalf. If it's on your behalf, it's easier. Right. So investments in companies in the Middle East or in the Gulf region, they organize your zakat for you. It's taken out from the company does it, basically, if it's companies. So you don't have to worry about it. They've done it.
But the problem, as you kind of described your situation in regards to real estate, one is there's 2 steps before we even consider paying zakah. One, is it even zakatable? And the second one is, what is the value of it at the time of said zakat?
That's what I was going to say, because every year
the value is
increasing, right?
Or decreasing. I mean, if you have to say, if you take investment and you bought lots of stuff, you're probably thinking of the end value at finished delivery, at handover, not the rubble and the stuff has not happened yet.
Now it's sand.
Now it's sand.
Not even rubble.
So like I said, and also again, if I bought the property to have the property, I haven't bought it to flip the property. There's no zakat on property that you just own.
Yeah.
So
no, but this is the flip. This is all investment.
But Is that the case with every single individual, or is that the case with you specifically? I mean, you might want to flip it, but I bought it to have long term. I mean, I'm saying that each
But anyone who
party
invests
has.
with him, anyone who invests with him
will exit also.
exit.
Yeah. So basically, the opinion I got from, correct me also, from Dr. Sajid Omar, is basically that because once they invest, there is no valuation of that. Like you mentioned, like it's sand, literally we're investing in. And we're expecting it will be that valuation, but nobody knows until it's finished.
Yeah.
So he said, because it's not a 5-7 year project, you're expected is 2 to 2.5 year. Basically for them to do the math at the end, at the exit, and then basically go back and pay for
each year.
The problem with the going back
pay it
thing
3 years.
for the years.
And the first year, how much would it be? The second year, how much would it be? Third year, how much would it be?
So basically they take the full exit, the value, and then pay on the full thing, 2.5.
A bit less, and then third year will be a bit less as well.
I mean,
I mean, I think, go on. You can.
I'm saying the only caveat or the question I have with that model is that why would you assess it over that period if it had no value during that period? You technically only assess it when it has the value, which is at the end. I.e., rather than taking the 2.5% multiplied by the number of years of the project, you would only evaluate it by what it is at the end, because the assumption is, like you just said, that during it is rubble.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I'm not in real estate, so I don't know how. If you had an incomplete project, how would you evaluate
It's
that?
so subjective, Sheikh. You know, this is a lot of things there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, for your own obviously situation, you've obviously, Dr. Sajid almost feel disqualified to do it. So you've got your verdict. That's kind of what you'd go with.
But I don't understand, Sheikh, is that I understand what it's worth on exit. But how would you then work out? Would you also backdate the valuation?
Yeah, he said just take the full valuation. And
would you say that, let's just say, for example, 1st of January, just to make it simple for people, we exit on 1st of January and Zakat also happens to be due on the 1st of January, right? But you're paying Zakat on the value of that amount on the 1st of January.
Over 3 years.
But
it wasn't that before.
But the year before that,
Yes,
it wasn't that. So do you also backdate the value? Do you let them know, hey, by the way, it was worth this much last year, and then the year before that it was worth this much?
I mean, I think...
So you give 2 points.
I'll ask that follow-up clarifying question, Sheikh, but it seemed like we're giving the same valuation.
Yeah, I think
So they're going to pay...
More.
Yeah. They're going to pay more. Yeah,
because I'm saying if you can do that thing of backdating the valuation, can't you just do that in real time?
In real time, right?
Guys, just so you know, on this date, the value of this project
as it is
right now,
with all the capital that's available,
is this much.
Yeah. Remember,
cleaner,
maybe you can clarify to me how you deliver a project, because I'm assuming at the beginning of the investment you have capital and you haven't even got the land yet.
Yeah.
Then you take some of the capital to purchase the land.
Yeah.
So now you have the land and you still have some capital
left. Yeah.
Then you need to work out employees and materials and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a juggling where you have some part of it is land, some part of it is capital, some part of it is in materials.
Asset, that you're...
So now we've had 1 year of the project, just 1 year project. If we stop for 1 second and evaluate,
yes,
how much, if I was to sell the land, how much would it be worth? That's the value.
Right.
We still have some money, some capital. That's zakatable anyway, because it's still capital.
Money,
And then we have some materials. Again, how much is all the materials on market value? So they still have a value as you're progressing. So I don't see it be that difficult if you're managing you should be, if you're managing the project properly, be able to deliver.
Yeah, of course.
The price of what is as you're rolling.
Yep.
So if that's the case, I remember that, and this is only purely based on the fact that you're saying the only reason why anybody's here is to sell, because if they're there to keep, that's not even a conversation either.
Yeah.
Other than the capital.
Yeah.
So the idea of clumping it together, like I said, it seems to be. I would say it's the ahwat. It's the safest position in the sense that you are overpaying by definition. By definition, you're overpaying.
Not much.
But I'm saying you're covering your thing. You're paying as a zakat, which is, we know that exists. But by definition, you're kind of paying over, so you're covering your back, and
for at least the 2 years that
covering the value of the previous part.
Yeah.
But that's, like you said, you mentioned a very good point. Assuming that on handover or sale, that's also the time of zakah. Because if it's not in line, maybe the zakat is 2, 3, 4 months later down the line, then you're back to your capital again. The house is already gone. You don't even thinking about that. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if your zakat is in February and you sold in January, then why would you even evaluate the property? Because it's already sold. You're back to your capital again.
Right.
I think a simple way to fix it is just to make a widget on a website. Just let them know every month, this is the value of the project today. So
I think, yeah.
And then
Because that's not easy to do, though, right? Because houses are the hardest thing to value, and they're going to be harder when
At the very early
you have a
stage.
standard, right? You
Yeah.
have a standard.
You don't value your house if you value the individual piece, the property value, which you can assume from the market.
Yeah.
But this is I had discussions just last night actually about this issue of stocks, because it's kind of connected. Is that if it's a Muslim project, like in a Muslim country, you wouldn't have to pay zakat because the company, being a Muslim, would be paying the zakat. So you just basically frame it in a way that don't worry about paying your zakat. That's factored in our round.
I see.
So essentially,
So
because remember,
that's a very good
zakat is on
Yep,
the
yep.
remember zakat is on the asset.
Right.
So if the company is managing the asset is doing all of that, that's almost part of the service.
Yes,
Yes.
that's easy
That's
in my
very good.
opinion.
Very
You
part
get
of
to
the
choose
service.
where it goes.
Yeah.
But you get to choose where it
And that's how you could
goes.
picture
It's going to
it.
be complicated now.
Yeah.
Everyone's...
Yeah.
You could picture that saying that's part of the round that we're providing that service. And remember,
That's very interesting,
Remember,
Sheikh, yeah.
part of those who collect and distribute the zakat also take part of the zakat. So that's going to be part of a revenue stream for you as well.
Maybe you wouldn't take
but
it
it's- no, but-
directly.
no,
Maybe
but-
you'd give it to
No,
somebody
seriously,
else.
because people have this. I really hated this thing in the UK where people say, "Oh, we give 100% of our zakat to sadaqah." Bro, collectors of zakat are also receivers of zakat. So you're kind of like pitching something which is not even mandatory in the first place. As Allah's mentioned, one of the 8
Yeah.
who received zakat. So you can pitch it saying, "Look, we're going to provide a service for you. You whatever you have elsewhere, you do your own zakat. But this particular project, we've already factored that in,
Yeah.
and we're going to take 1% of."
We can have even an outside organization do the audit of the
Yeah.
zakat and do it just to avoid conflict
Yeah.
of interest. But this is very good. This is very
I mean,
good.
Luckily, it removes that headache,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is the service you're offering.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I don't know how these rich people think. I'm not a rich person, but is that if you're telling them,
So you say.
where
Rich Bitcoin. Rich in Bitcoin.
I'm saying you, if you're saying someone this project, your zakat is handled, that is a service worth.
It's an added benefit.
It's an added
absolutely.
benefit. It's a significant benefit because
Yeah.
zakat is a big fan. You're saying you can even add how it was distributed. We helped build this place and do this or distribute it. You could actually add that.
You're right. That's actually
Actually, better to just have an organization partner up with them and
easier.
have them.
And Sheikh, also another selling point here is that you can actually make the point that it's actually going to be it's not impossible, but it's going to be hard for you to do it yourself. Other people, if you invest with them, they can leave it to you.
Yeah.
Is that an ESG
And there's
point,
more
Ben?
chance for you to mess this up.
Is that an ESG
ESG
point?
score. Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's very good. Learned something great today.
I think
mashallah.
for the ones that aren't investing and they do have the money tied up and they're going to go with the what Dr. Sajid mentioned.
Yeah.
It's also important to realize that if you got whatever is £100, £1,000, the first year you pay 2.5% of £1,000. The second year will be 2.5% of whatever's
remaining from that.
So it's not 2.5% of that amount over every year.
Yes. Very
Do the
important.
calculations.
A lot
as
of people
well.
don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, so just so that it is less every single year. So that way you're not paying it on the whole principal at the end. You're not paying you're never ever paying zakat on the whole amount.
Yeah.
So it's going to be less than what you've ever received at the end of it, what you've taken back basically.
Correct.
So that's also important to kind of
Very important.
highlight as well. Yeah.
Barakallah fi. Sam, you had some specific questions you wanted to ask.
Can I, Sheikh? Okay, good. These are selfish questions.
Yeah.
But Sheikh, on this, now that I explained the project to you, how it works. So of course, one of the limitation of this model particular one is there's no cash flow for the investor, right? The capital is locked in for 2 years to 2.5 years and there's no cash flow coming in. So based on the estimation of the profit we can make, let's say we're estimating we're going to make 25% a year. Based on that estimate, now can we reverse engineer, Sheikh, and pay them based on that estimate, let's say 10% profit a year? And then at the end of the project, we see, we did not make 25, we made only 20, or we actually made 30. Whatever the remaining is, we pay that at the end, so that from an investor point of view, they get some liquidity. Based on estimation, though, we actually have not made that profit, but it's based on great estimation that inshallah we should make it. And then we reduce it by half or even less than half. Let's say we're expecting to make 25% a year. We give them 8, like 1/3 of it. Do you understand the question, Sheikh?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So basically, they're going to be able to get access to their
Anticipated profit. Yeah.
before time, and then it's going to correct when it matures. It's going to correct at that time.
Would that also be the opposite? As in, if it was less than 10%, they have to give it back.
Yes, that's where the risk comes in. Right, but risk as in they would be like, this is very hard. Risk is on our side, and we're not debt collectors, right? It would be very hard for us to collect that 8% back, but we do have their capital, so we can adjust it from there if the capital is.
So if that's the case, it's kind of framed like a loan then. If they have to pay back, if it doesn't even get that, that's technically then a loan. You're advancing them a loan for cash flow purposes, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's why I'm asking, Sheikh. How is it like? How do we structure it? What do you guys think? Because that will be a significant plus for our projects if there is no Shari'i issue.
You'd be paying them from your pocket, though, wouldn't you?
Yes, from the company balance sheet.
From the company balance sheet, yeah.
Not from the project balance sheet.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're shifting that risk and stuff onto yourself.
Correct.
What if you just decrease the amount you give them in terms of cash flow?
Yeah, it's decreased, Sheikh.
Even more, maybe. Like to the point where it's like...
Give me in percentage. Like I'm saying, let's say 1/3 of our anticipated profit. Yeah. I give them annualized 1/3 and divided by quarterly.
Give them an amount that you'd be willing
to lose.
It's like, for example, you know how some people, they have money back guarantees?
Yeah.
Everyone knows that there's going to be a certain percentage that are just going to money back, right? But because of that money back guarantee, I get more closes as well. I get more sales. Yeah. So because I'm getting way more sales, I can actually swallow the amount that I know I'm definitely going to lose. It seems like a math thing.
Yep. We have to crunch it differently then. Yeah.
I mean, it's something that I'm happy to look into in more detail.
Yeah.
As for just to...
We can discuss offline as well, Sheikh. Yep.
And obviously, again, there's no situation where you don't find a better halal alternative to something which is impermissible, basically. And I think that's an important thing that Muslims should realize.
Yeah.
That it's not a case of, okay, this is worse for me. This is better for me because it's halal.
Right.
So whether it's the investor, whether it's the person managing the investment,
yes, sure.
Right, every contract that he presents or that any type of for the investor, any type of return on investment, as long as it's halal, then it's always going to be the best option.
Right.
So I think that's an important kind of starting point for every single Muslim investor that fears Allah, that wants to draw close to Allah in every aspect of their life, not just in their prayer and their Sawm, because Sawm or Ramadan, everyone does that, right? It's easy to do with everyone else. But it comes to my money now, and am I going to lose it or get it? And can I guarantee the principal and stuff like that? People start it changes a little bit, right? There's less kind of concern on that, and then we start to invent kind of ways in which we can,
subhanallah.
And that's what happens a lot. I think, but there's definitely obviously alternatives. I mean, it's a complex market.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of companies doing what you're doing, on different scales, but huge scales, large scales, small scales, medium scales, and I think a lot of them do have. I just don't know how it works properly at the moment.
Okay,
where you're an investor in the project, you get a annual return, and you get your principal plus whatever the maturity is at the end of the when you exit.
Usually on most projects, Sheikh, they do have a cash flow coming, right? On this particular example, the project will have no cash flow.
I see.
So we'll basically front the money from the other ones that I know of. They have cash flow. They have cash flow coming while they're waiting for an exit in 5 to 7 years.
What's the structure there then? How does the cash flow come? Where does it come from?
So it's not a development project. For example, it's a value add project. Let's say they get a multifamily 8 floors, but they can build another 4 floors. So while they're building that, they're collecting rent on these 8 floors, right? Yeah. So that's what they're distributing. And then the value add and the exit, and they're getting. But this one is like Sheikh mentioned, is sand and then rubbles, and there's no cash flow coming from the project.
Yeah, it's a loan from the...
Yes.
So, I'm just thinking, is it possible, I'm just thinking of ways to frame it, because I think what AbdulWahid mentioned, one of the principles he mentioned, which is really key in this scenario, is the issue of guarantees on revenues and stuff. So, you want to avoid that guarantee. That's why I said, if you advance to 10%, and the end result is that the profit that you deserve is only 9%, is it in contractual that they return back the 1% difference, which will bring it back to the non-guarantee thing, which is what you mentioned. That's a very important point. But I was thinking of another way of doing it, is if that 10% is actually your purchase. So essentially, you would front load ownership towards them, and then yearly you're essentially purchasing the 10% back. So it's not actually giving it to them as cash flow. You're actually buying
their capital,
their part of the portion of it back. So that kind of generates the cash flow. Does that make sense?
Somebody else suggested that actually, and that's a good viable option. Yeah. You're buying their share, but they're getting cash flow.
So rather than saying, like, for example, I'm assuming a project you have 10-20% and they have the 80%, but rather you could say, actually at the start you have 10%. And they have 90%. And as a duration, you're kind of purchasing the remaining 10%, which you would have had it been.
Yes, exactly. And that works as a cash flow for them.
It works as cash flow for them.
But they lose out.
But lose out on that, obviously.
They lose out on the...
But the only thing I would say in that regards, though, for it to, from my understanding of Islamic finance, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you were to do that, that purchase would be there and then. You can't say I will do the purchase later on at a future price. It's like, okay, at this duration, I will purchase 10% and of the value of what it will be at the time, kind of thing. Because you can't say what they say. You can't say I'm gonna buy next month the car from you at this price, and I'll give you the money next month and the car next month. Because essentially, if you're gonna do the business now. If you give me the cash now, car next month, or the car now and the cash this month, but not both of them at a later date. When a later date comes, we'll negotiate then. If I want a car, then I'll negotiate.
There's no contract.
I can say to you, I promise, but there has to be the thing where I say, you know what, I don't want the car anymore.
Yes.
So, same thing with you. If you front loaded it by saying 90-10, and then essentially the idea is that you would eventually over time become 20-80, there is a caveat that, I might not have the cash flow at the time, and you just keep the 90.
Right.
So I'm just saying, as an idea.
There's ways. Okay.
There are ways. Yeah. There are ways, bro. There are ways.
I'll make it quick, Sheikh. So the second one is on our real estate construction. We're mainly in construction, right? The late fee issue with contractors. How do we enforce discipline in contractors without enforcing late fees? And is enforcing late fees in this case would be considered riba because they're not paying us anything. It's us. Let's say we're paying $200 per square foot for the construction. Let's say I'm just throwing arbitrary numbers, right? Now we're paying them, and the contract is they'll have milestones, and on each milestone we'll give them the draws, but their milestones are getting delayed. So now, okay, how do we penalize them, or how do we motivate them? Do you understand? So there should be both. I agree. If they finish before milestones, we give them reward. I'm on that, right? And if they finish, if they pass the deadline, they don't finish, then there should be penalty as well from a commercial sense. But can you make it Sharia compliant? Is the question, and if so, how?
I don't think that's a penalty, right? There's no. You're not charging them a penalty on their loan. You're charging them a penalty.
It's not a loan.
It's not a loan.
So it's work.
So there's no.
They're doing work for you. You're paying for it.
You can have penalties for that, then, right?
Well, that's the question. That's the question.
You're fundamentally deducting money of that they're entitled to.
Fundamentally, you're deducting money from their entire contract
because they haven't fulfilled.
So it's a wording thing.
Fulfilled a part of the condition. I think when it comes to projects like these ones, and you're better, positioned than I am, delays happen not sometimes because of the project or sometimes because of other factors, not necessarily the workers. And if it's
most of the time it's not for the workers actually, but people like to blame it on the workers.
Yeah, if it's a fixed, it's true. If it's contract's a fixed price anyway, they're not going to gain anything from delaying. They don't get paid more money because they're delaying because it's fixed, right? So
correct.
It's not a case where they can play.
They're not motivated to delay.
They're not motivated to delay. They're motivated to complete early. There's a bonus for completing early as well.
Isn't the delay penalty enough? I mean, if I said to you, I'm paying you $1 million to get this place done, and they've now taken rather than 1 year, 2 years,
they lose out.
They still have to pay those people the extra year, so they're still kind of
they're losing, but I'm also losing. Because the market can change. That's number one. Like because my whole feasibility was done based on I'm going to sell on the 13th month. The more we hold the asset, the more we're exposed to the risk.
I think there's in projects which are development and they're quite over time. It's hard to penalize delays when the causation of it is not necessarily because of the workers.
Yes,
for
but let's say,
example.
Sheikh, they are the cause.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. It's hardly actually them. People just
that's
like to
right.
blame the contractors.
Yeah.
But let's say in an instance, it's actually them.
Yeah, I think it would just be about how you how you do the payments and you stagger them, and how you do. You've got ways of doing it. As for how you would implement a kind of a fine system for not meeting milestones, and targets. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how that would be implemented in the contract. I'm going to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. It's not equivalent to a kind of a late payment system like Imran was mentioning, because it isn't. It's
not paying us.
It's not a delay in time, and they're paying you money for something.
Do you know
what I mean? Because of a delay in time. But the ethics of it needs to be looked at, right? Because it could be a punishment for something which, right? They don't have a hand in. It's a bit dangerous in terms of how you're gonna. Yeah.
This now reminds me of a masala with regards to Bitcoin. I know I always bring back to Bitcoin. I know I always do that. But here's another scenario. So the idea was, how do you encourage people to pay you in Bitcoin when they can just pay you in fiat?
Yeah.
And one scenario was given was that you could say, if you pay me in Bitcoin at this price, so if you pay me in fiat, this is the price. The price of this car is £1,000. But if you pay in Bitcoin,
900.
It's £900.
Yeah.
Or you could, so therefore you frame it as a discount.
Yes.
Or you could say, actually, the price of the car is £1,000 in Bitcoin, but if you pay me in fiat, there's an extra charge for processing fees of 1,100. That's just an issue of framing, really, because the discount's the same 10%.
Right.
But one you framed it as you get a discount if you do it this way. One you frame it as you get a penalty. So maybe your scenario is an issue of framing. You could say to them, look, if you want a project done in 1 year, and that's kind of what you're aiming for, you can say to them, look, I'll give you 2 years at this price, but if you finish early, I'll give you a bonus. And if you don't do that, you lose the bonus. No one would say that's an issue of riba, because a bonus is like saying, I'm giving you extra reward,
incentive
to do
that's
so.
That's what we usually do now.
Yeah.
That's how we have it now.
Yeah.
But even then, if they delay, Chef.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with I think one of
even beyond the
yes.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with the delay aspect and fining is that you benefit because your costs now go down.
Correct.
Right. So it's that's where the problem comes.
That's why the gray
it becomes a very grey area, because it's like, okay, well, I can just say,
so maybe
I'm just going to fine you so that I can reduce my overheads. I need some capital this month, for example.
Last quick question, Sheikh.
Yeah.
Last one. Invoice factoring.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that, Sheikh?
Explain it, and I'll.
Yep. So basically, I'll use a real estate example. Let's say there is post-handover payment plans.
Yeah.
Okay, Sheikh. So, on the handover, the building is complete. The residents come in. By that time, let's say they have paid 80%. Okay. Then we give them a post-handover plan that the remaining 20% you pay in 20 months. Okay. I'm just making it 1% a month. You pay in 20 months. Okay. There's no interest, nothing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a developer. I'm not in the business of collecting money. Okay. We're in the business of building, exiting, building, renting, right? Now, am I allowed, because the underlying asset has been delivered, the person is living there, enjoying there, right? Now that 20%, can I go to an institution that specializes on collecting debt, right? And say that, hey, just take this 20%, collect it, give me 15 now.
You're selling the debt,
selling the
basically.
Yeah,
selling the contracts.
Yeah.
Selling the
So the
contracts.
question though becomes: are we selling debt? Or are we selling contract? What are we selling? Because I know if it's selling that, of course we can.
Yeah.
But what is it? Because the person has gotten the product, they're enjoying it, and we're not in the business of waiting for the payment. That's why I wanted to make the situation very specific to you, Sheikh, instead this is the situation. Or do we just have to wait?
Again, I think it's something that I'll rather look into if I'm going to give a kind of a actual answer that you're going to depend on. I'd rather sit down and we speak
of course,
about it, look into
sounds
it.
good.
But the sort of it that's apparent is it's like you're selling debt, basically. That's how it looks on this apparent picture. And the proof of it is that they're not collecting it for you and you're paying them a fee. You're actually saying, give me this much up front.
Yes.
And then you're going to end up getting 20.
Yep.
I'm going to take 15 from you, you're going to get 20, right?
Yep.
So they're buying something worth 20 for 15, right? So it looks like you're selling debt. I'm not saying that's the situation.
And that happens in a smaller scale as well on other businesses, Sheikh, as well. Invoice factoring, like accounts receivables.
Yeah.
The cash flow cycle is 6 months, especially in the medical in the United States. The insurance takes 6 months to pay. So they go to these other organizations.
And they get the money up front.
They get the money up front. And they do a 60-40, man. They only take 60%.
Really?
They're like, sell the whole thing because I need money.
But what's wrong with selling debt if all parties are pleased?
Selling debt. That's basically, what you're doing is look at how much is he getting and what's it for? It's for time. Remember, what's riba? Riba is money for time. So I'm going to get 15, he's going to get 20. He's a third party, it's true. The debt isn't directly to him. But the problem with debt is, selling debt is same as buying Sukooq and selling them on the secondary market. You're selling a debt instrument. You're not selling, there's no actual, you're not selling an asset, you're not selling a thing, right? The contract with him and the investor or the buyer is they're buying the property. So the contract now is you're passing on the debt to somebody else, but it's not because they owe you money already. So it's different if, for example, I can pass on a debt. I can do what's it called? Tahweel of a debt.
Pass on a debt.
I can pass on a debt.
Yeah.
You owe me money, and
he owes me money.
Yeah, so
I say just
get it from him. That's no problem because that's fine. And you don't need permission from the person that owes the money, right?
There is a so if you want to make tahweel to someone else, so you owe me, and I owe him, and I said, okay, just get money from him. If you got beef with him, you can say, no, give me the money. You go and collect from him.
Because he's got beef.
Because there's lots of things. There is an issue of permission. Can I do the tahweel?
Yeah, from what I understood, there wasn't. But maybe, if there's...
I mean, I just remember from the time I mentioned that because as long as there's
a possibility of getting the money from the person.
I mean, for example, imagine he's mumatil.
Yeah, that's right.
You're a person who's bad at paying back debts. So you can say there are reasons.
You're right.
There are reasons you can do it. Yeah. But I mean, why can't you just sell? Thing is, the problem with your whole scenario is, what are you selling or what are you passing on? Because if you've already handed over and the deed is now in their name,
it is.
So then what are you handing over? What are you giving over? You're literally handing over the debt. Whereas if you had 20%, if you had like a musharaka thing whereby you had 20% and they had 8%, and over time you're moving it over, you can then say, I'm selling you the asset.
The asset share.
And then they can continue buying it.
Buy my share.
What if you do that just before the handover?
Buy my share of that,
Okay, I see the point.
Can you do that before the handover?
We possibly can. I'll share the details with you, Sheikh.
So that's an option. If someone who's taking that on can say, look, we own X amount. Do you want to take that piece on? That could be an option. But it's just, what are you doing? It's a lot of it's just the framing. But what are you doing?
Yeah, instead of selling the contract, the obligation of payment, if we can
transfer.
It's transferring the percentage of selling the share of the property, and
like literally just before the handover.
Yeah. It will be complicated, but it's possible. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing. The thing is, this is why people go for the easy option.
100% sure.
Even though it's impermissible, because it's a headache in their mind.
Headache is such a big word, Sheikh. People do so many crazy things not to take an extra headache.
On a headache, right? Not realizing that headache is the ibadah. That's the worst. That's the struggle. That's the jihad, right?
That's the jihad
that you have to do. What's taklif? What is taklif if not going through a liability, doing actions, right? So I guess that's the point. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu feek, Sheikh. Thank you so much.
I guess my question would be, how do we get in on his business, man? How do we get into this real estate, brother?
Do you take investment in Bitcoin?
We do now, actually, sir. We're gonna, we do.
Open up the doors.
Yes.
But we'll chat after, because there are some ideas about real estate and using Bitcoin as a tool.
Absolutely, Sheikh.
To facilitate these
Let's
things.
sit down and discuss, inshallah.
Because there are avenues. I'm not sure about the legality. That's always the issue of legality.
No, UAE is leading on that legality.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the legality in terms of what you're allowed to transact. Because as much as UAE is adopting Bitcoin or crypto, still there's a law of business has to transact in the dirham.
Yep.
So I'm not sure how much Bitcoin can be involved in the transaction. That's just a part of the question, but
we'll talk.
There's lots to be said.
Barakallah feek, man.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that we've that I've taken away from this conversation is how there are so many alternatives. Just being creative.
We need to build systems, brother.
Systems.
We need to build systems.
There's always a way. There's always a way, man. So
there's one thing you mentioned, something I never knew about. It makes perfect sense, and it explains so many things. You mentioned about the asset managers, how the risk is not in that's not in the. Why would I advise someone to invest in X, Y, Z, which is a good project?
Yes.
That if it goes wrong, I am more than finished.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if it goes right, I still just get a pat on the back.
So essentially, it's a perfect example of that fiat industry whereby you're incentivized to be within the system. There's no reason for you to go against the system.
Yeah.
If you try to go against the system, essentially you're penalized. And that's not just real estate. A lot of people in science, in physics, are complaining about that. If we was to even think about a model of the world which is different from the industry, we'll lose our job, we won't get the tenure, we won't get research grants. There's so many things, the systems around you that kind of forces you into the mundane or into the establishment.
Outside the box.
Right.
And we need to start breaking rules, bro, and start making new things.
Guys, barakallah feekum, man. With that said, I really appreciate the time you guys taken out to come and have this conversation. I think it's been very fruitful, very educational. We'll let everyone know about you guys' ecosystems in the link below so they can follow. And Medina College online now?
Medina College online, mclportal.com.
Mashallah, tabarakallah. So if you guys want to seek knowledge, become students of knowledge at Medina College. We'll put the link below. Inshallah ta'ala. Guys, with that said, I love you and leave you, man. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah.